Hey, this is Regina Y. Favors, and I'm coming to you with a new series titled Overcoming Life Tired Setback. And this is a quick introduction to the series. So, the series uh, really explores my own personal experiences that I am going through right now. I am life tired in the sense that I have not had a true break since I would say about 2006. And what I hope to gain from this series is just recognition of how I got to where I am, what I need to do, what I need to accept in terms of some of the decisions that I have made in my own life, and then also consider resolutions to certain aspects of my life. And um, right now, I am actually in my healing season. I'm using this summer 2024 as a healing summer. I've decided not to teach on campus. I teach college English, and so I usually teach for the summers on campus. And I'm just really tired. I just really don't want to go into the campus, into the classroom, and so I've decided just to teach from home. Now, I'm not quitting teaching, so I'm not part of that viral movement of teachers who have decided to quit teaching. That's not what this is about. What this is about is essentially me taking some time to reflect um, on my decisions, my life, my patterns, my roads. Some of them were fear-based type decisions. Some of them were types of decisions that I knew I should not have gotten into. Those types of relationships. Some decisions were sin-based that I ended up having to receive judgment and go through correction. And so it's just a number of decisions that we have all made. But I want to focus on my own life, my own particular journey, and let this be part of my own healing journey. So hopefully, if you go through this series, you would be able to maybe recognize some aspects of yourself in this series, and maybe take notes, do what you think is best for you, so that you can also enter your own journey. So this is Life Tired. This is Overcoming Life Tired Setback. This is a quick introduction to the series. Please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. You may also visit my website, reginayfavors.com, for tips. Of course, if you stay on the channel, you will see more videos on the topic. Thank you very much for listening. Hey, this is Regina White Favors with Overcoming Lifetime Setback. And so the question, this series begs the question, what is life tired? Life tired, I don't know if this concept is novel, but it is something that I came up with when I was thinking about making a decision to take a break. And if you know from one of my videos in the series, I say that I have not taken a rest or a break since 2006. And Life Tired just came to mind when I was making a decision. I was supposed to interview for a full time position, converting from temporary full time to full time. And I was I got everything ready. I got the notification that I was going to interview and then do the teaching demonstration. And I was getting ready. I printed everything out. I was going to make copies for all of the panel, the interview committee members, the faculty committee members, and I was ready. And that was on a Friday, and then I did a little bit of more up maintenance on that for like a Saturday, so that I could make sure that the PowerPoint presentation and what I was going to put on the board was going to make sense, right? By Sunday, by Sunday, I knew I couldn't do it. And there was nothing wrong with the position. I love teaching. I don't have a problem with teaching or anything like that. But it was one of those things that happened back in 2006 when I decided to re-enroll in college again. Um, because I did not have a plan outside of my last degree, which was May 2005. I didn't have a plan. So what you do is you always go back to what was your comfort, right? What was convenient. I knew I can get more student loan money, right, to carry me through. And so that's what I did. So then I took one of the same jobs that I had when I was in school, a drop-in tutor, a drop-in writing tutor. And so I was good to go. I thought I was going to go ahead and, finish a semester. I always finish a semester. And one day I put my hand on my head and laid my head on my desk and said, I can't do this anymore. And that was back in 2006 as well. And I said, I can't do this anymore. And I went on ahead and disenrolled. I had already had a master's degree. I was only just going back because I wanted to do some instructional design courses because I wanted to create teaching videos. And so, again, though, the reason why I also went back was simply because I didn't have a plan. And that's what I teach my students today in college English. But life tired is essentially defined as a an amalgam of decisions you have made, uh, good or bad, that were they they were not productive, or they were just decisions on top of decisions on top of decisions on top of decisions. It's like putting a bunch of bags on your back and then eventually collapsing. Each bag is a decision. Each, whether it's a carry-on bag, whether it's a makeup bag, whether it's a check-in bag, whether it's a purse bag, whatever the bags, right? You have your own regular life bags that you have to manage yourself. What happens with us though is, many of us who take on the burdens of other people's bags, we carry those bags as well. We take on their responsibilities, we pay their bills, we cover them, we don't cover ourselves. Then we have, financial issues, financial instability in our lives, and we never take the time to actually look at the setbacks in our life and resolve them. And so by the time, it's almost like it's an accumulation of decisions and setbacks without resolution. And that's when correction has to step in, because you need that closed door, you need that brick wall, you need that cul-de-sac, so that you can turn back around and look at what types of decisions you have made in your life, so that you can now change them. So life tired is that no matter, you keep going and going and going and going, and you think you still have the same energy that you had back in whatever age you had. You keep making decisions, you keep entering romantic relationships after romantic relationships without a break. You move in friendships, you move from friend to friend, or you may have had a life setback in terms of you losing your place and having to go and live with family and friends or something like that. You may have had a job setback, and when you finally got a job, you put so much energy into working, 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 and keeping a job that you ran yourself down. So it is a series of decisions and life setbacks that you have not taken the time to resolve. And when you hit that metaphorical brick wall, when you hit that wall, whether you're a man or a woman, it forces you to now look at you. It forces you to think about you. It forces you to think about, why did I actually choose to be in a relationship with the person who is clearly not the right person for me? Why did I do that? What is in my background? What is in my mindset? What is in my heart? What is in my finances that I permitted this person to be in my life, knowing that this person should not be in my life? I took a job. I moved to another city and state because someone said, "Hey, you should move to a city and state," but I didn't research it on my own, right? Or I took a job, or I was too quick to move out of my parents' house and into my own apartment, and then you are forced to work and work and work so that you can keep the apartment, right? And then you rationalize a reason in your mind that maybe I should take a roommate, and then there are issues with the roommate, and so then these accumulation, this amalgam and accumulation of decisions that you continue to make, but you don't take time for self reflection. As soon as you exit a relationship, that does not mean that it's time to get into another relationship, whether that's a friendship, a family relationship, or a romantic relationship. It doesn't matter. Even if you are leaving, even if it doesn't have anything to do with a relationship and you're exiting something and you want to enter and do better with your health or something like that, right? You want to go to the gym and exercise and really get your physical person right where it needs to be. And a lot of times we're motivated by trying to show somebody who dumped us or who let us go or who wouldn't take us back or something like that, and we're motivated. The problem with that is that health, seeking good health, is a good strategy. There's nothing wrong with that. However, your mindset still hasn't changed. It's like people who get money, tons of money from the lottery, but they don't have a financial mindset to maintain it, and it burns in their pockets, right? Or you go get another relationship after the one that you just got out of. You find somebody, you see somebody in the bar, and you go after that relationship, and you try to make it a relationship because the one that you just left has failed, and you don't want to be a failure. You don't want to be a loser. So you go and hurry up and find something that you can get into so that you can win. But you keep doing that and keep doing it, and you keep having so many relationships that eventually you're going to collapse mentally. So, life tired, this is a very haphazard way to define it. So, it's something that I'm still having to think about. But life tired is essentially, it's an amalgam of decisions that you have made that have led to setbacks in your life that you have not resolved. So you make a decision to enter another relationship after soon after one relationship, but the goal should not be to enter another relationship. The goal should be to reflect on what happened with the previous relationship so that you don't repeat the pattern. So it's an amalgam, a blending, amalgam, accumulation of decisions that you have made that might have been hasty, and sometimes they can be um, they can be good decisions, but it's an amalgam, accumulation of decisions that you have made that have led to some form of setback in your life that you have not resolved. And so now you the decisions were good in 20, something didn't happen, you were good 30, 40, and then now you have hit that particular brick wall where you are forced to confront you. So this is overcoming life tired setback. What is life tired? uh, Please subscribe to the channel. Visit reginawhyfavors.com for tips and resources. uh, Thank you very much for listening. Hey, this is Regina White Favors with Overcoming Life Tired Setback. And so today's discussion is about the idea or the fact that I have not had a break since 2006. 2006 actually marks the beginning of my correction period, where I made a decision back in 2000 to enter into an unequally yoked friendship. What happened was I struggled with my finances. I struggled to manage my finances. And so a lot of times, not too many, but I was late on my rent. Well, the landlord at the time when I lived in San Diego said that if I was late one more time, that I would have to leave. Now, this landlord, I wasn't under a specific lease. What it was a residential hotel in San Diego that I lived at. It was called Vantaggio Suites on State Street in Little Italy. And again, I just did not manage my money, or I made sure to cover everyone else and not myself. And so then I needed my rent, and then it just kind of snowballed after that. Well, I saw the image of that landlord saying what he said, and it moved me to fear. The landlord wasn't wrong. He wasn't in the wrong. I was in the wrong. So a friend of mine who we used to work together. It was a group of us, and we used to work together at a certain company, and doing customer service, phone customer service. And so she offered her room. I was paying $650, and she offered her room at $275. And I thought to myself, well, I can save a lot of my money that I get from the school, because I was in college at the time, and I can save a lot of my money while I'm in school. And so, yeah, why not? But I but the decision was fear based. It was fear based. And so, even though I had warnings from my mother, from another friend, and then from another person, I ignored the warnings. I decided to do what I was going to do anyway. And even though it was motivated by fear, I still used my own free will. So I went on ahead and moved into her room for 275. And within a very short time, and I mean literally within 3 months, something happened to my money. I didn't have any more money. It burned in my pocket. I struggled to pay rent there. I went from paying 650 to 275 and struggled paying 275. That tells me, of course, and you would know as well, that I wasn't supposed to be in that situation. And so it burned, and then I struggled to try to pay each month, and then the situation at the apartment just went sour. It went sour way before I could not pay. I think what happened with her situation, she's the one who needed money, and instead of just asking to borrow money from me, she decided to offer her room. But once she got back on her feet financially, she no longer needed me in that apartment. And then that's when her attitude changed. So I ended up moving out in August. I returned to the same place uh, where the landlord told me that if I couldn't pay, I would have to leave. I ended up returning. So I was able to get my apartment back. And then that happened in 2000. I graduated with my bachelor's in 2002. And then I went on ahead and did the master's and graduated in 2005. And so it looked like everything was going to go all right, because I was teaching for a language school in California. And I hadn't really planned on moving back to Dallas, where I am now. And so that happened. And then somehow later, things began to just kind of unravel. I was struggling to find a job or to keep a job after graduation. So that meant that I was still struggling to pay my rent. And then eventually I had no other choice but to leave San Diego in 2006. I first tried to move to my brother's house in Atlanta, his apartment, and he sort of acted up. And then I ended up having to move back to my mother's place within the same year. And my correction journey, my judgment and correction journey began in 2006. So in 2006, there was still some issues with mom and family, but then I was able to get a teaching job with the community college district out here in Dallas from '07 to '08, and then life shut down in '08. So somewhere between June, July, and August, life shut down. And that's when I had to go through my process, because I disobeyed God in 2000. It affected me, or it caught up with me in 2008. So the I haven't had a rest or break since 2006, in the sense that once that happened, there were parts of me that were parts of my experiences where I was homeless. Um, um, Living in your parents' house is homeless, contrary to what people say or think. And then things did not go well with my mother because it's always been a toxic situation. So I ended up having to go into the shelter. So back and forth with that situation. And life didn't really, I went through multiple shelters. Life didn't really get to some form of stability until I got into the Salvation Army, somewhere like 2013, April, I think. And then I ended up meeting the wrong person, actually doing this process. So any kind of romantic relationships you put on top of another type of instability, economic instability, financial instability is always going to be a negative impact on your life. And so with that relationship, that lasted from 2013 to 2016. It was toxic. It was a rebound relationship where the person was using me as a rebound and couldn't let go of the ex. And then there was emotional, psychological turmoil. You know, you can almost lose your mind in that type of situation. And so I went on ahead and had to make a decision to resolve it by exiting the relationship altogether in February 2016. And so I was able to get back on with my college district because I didn't have a job between '08 and 2013. The college district had a all campus job fair, and I returned to the same campus that I started with back in 2007. So I was able to get on. And so then when you are trying to get back into a state of, financial stability, you need to keep your head down. You need to uh, do what you need to do. You do your job. You do what you need to do. And that was between 13 and 20. And then the pandemic hit. I ended up with one class, and then I didn't teach for 21. And then I was called back 2022 fall. And so then, when you're called back, you're teaching classes. It was a temporary full-time position. So between 22 and 24, it was just heavy duty teaching, and heavy duty planning for my businesses as well, um, that I started. So all of the books that I was writing, and then all of the business planning. And I say all of that to say that I have not had any rest since 2006. And no one really has the option or opportunity to like take a break, right, in a normal sense. But when you're life tired, it's one of those things that if you don't get somewhere and sit down and take a break and not engage in too many activities outside of the home and just kind of roam around your house and rest, if you don't, you're going to collapse. So for 2024, when I would usually teach in the summer, I decided I had to put my foot down. No, I was not going to pursue a full time position again just yet, and that I was just going to teach in the summer and make do with whatever I got in terms of finances. And so this is me saying that I have not had a break since 2006. There's a healing part of the journey that I should have done back in 1998 that I didn't do. There's also other parts of my journey where um, I need to address some aspects of myself that need healing. That means, decision making, um, anything that is related to um, what I need to do going forward. Because in December 2024, I'm going to be 50 years old, and no one who is 50 years old wants to deal with certain types of life decisions uh, that can affect you, cause you to have a mental break, cause you to have a heart attack, cause you to have any type of financial downfall. No one wants to deal with that. So, this is me. I learned back in my 40s um, that I felt my mortality. Now, in what will become my 50s, it's me sort of repairing and healing from some of those types of decisions that I made in my 20s and 30s. So, this is Overcoming Life Setback. I haven't had a rest or break since 2006. Please subscribe to the channel, Regina Y. Favors. Um, view the videos, hit the notification bell. Also, you can visit my website, reginawhitefavors.com, for tips and resources. Thank you very much for listening. Hi, this is Regina White Favors with Overcoming Life Tired Setback. And so the topic today is I need time away from the classroom. This does not mean that I need time away from teaching. So even though I am not teaching in the classroom beginning summer, I usually teach in the summer, and I usually teach in the classroom. I teach college English, and I just couldn't do it. I just could not do it. And I appealed to my supervisor, who is the chair of the English department, and asked her to just assign me online classes. And that's usually not available um, to adjunct faculty because my temporary full time position ends May of 2024. And so I've decided to go back to or return to adjunct just to stay in the system because when there was a financial crisis 08 to 13, I couldn't get back into the system. And so I didn't get back into the system until about 2013. So therefore, uh, in 2024, I just want to be sure that I don't have problems in that area while I take my break. I actually needed time away from the classroom in 2020, but then the pandemic happened. I remember feeling very frustrated. I returned 2013, 7 years later, 2020. And I don't know, I think I was just frustrated. I was just getting annoyed. I don't have problems with the students. I didn't necessarily have problems with the classroom itself or teaching English. I think I was just annoyed. I think I was just frustrated. There can be aspects of teaching uh, that you kind of struggle with as much as you lay out the foundation, you lay the proper, uh, foundation, organization, structure, and you will still have some students who decide not to abide by that structure. That student is the type of person who's going to send you emails and ask you why. I mean, where is everything? I don't see it online. When it is very clear, and sure, you may have to take into consideration that how a student views something online may be a lot different from how you structured it for them to see it. But a lot of times, students coming in are coming in directly from high school, and they are coming from environments where they look to the teacher for the source of all their information, and how to do something versus being self-sufficient, versus we give you a syllabus as college instructors. We go over that syllabus. Sometimes I will add audio to the syllabus, and then we give you assignment sheets. We give you all of the materials. There's lectures, things like that. And but for some reason, you will still have a good number of students who don't comprehend self-sufficiency, how to research something, how to look at something. And in some cases, we're not even asking you to research at the beginning of the semester. We're asking you to read module one reading, read module two, read module three, do the exercises, print out the English assignment sheet, read the English assignment sheet. If you don't want to read it, I've added audio to it. Listen to the audio as I go over it. There's so many things that we do as college instructors that we go above and beyond, especially with me because I want to create teaching videos, learning teaching videos. And so for a great deal of all of my assignments and modules and lessons or whatever, I have added audio lessons to them. I have added me speaking through the particular lesson to the um, for that particular document. It can be a reading document. It can be an assignment sheet. It can be the lecture PowerPoint. It can be a number of things. And what students will constantly do will be they would hunt my email. They will hunt for my email and go through the process, 20, 30 minutes of the process of trying to find the email to send me an email to ask me, where's this? Where's that? Where's this assignment? Where's this? And so, 20, I was starting to feel that process of being annoyed and frustrated, but the pandemic happened. So then we had to quickly adjust from a primarily campus-based class to remote class. So that means that I had to create the audio lessons. That's when I think I really began creating audio lessons, um, because I needed to make sure that students got an understanding of a particular module. So we had spring break, and then the last two modules after spring break actually required some kind of audio component. And so I did a rush of that to try to get students to understand that. I did audio or whatever. And then 2020 got very desperate because then we were losing classes. So I went from 3 to 1 classes, and my last semester was fall 2020. So I didn't have any classes all of spring, I mean, all of 2021, which meant that I had to go on unemployment. I had to find other ways to make money. I do score exams. I haven't in a long time. And then it was still getting a little dire. That means that I'm pawning computers, or I'm pawning something, or I'm just it's just very hard. And so then the chair uh, contacted me via my regular email, because I went on ahead and resigned from the college, because I thought, well, maybe my time is up. Maybe I should return to San Diego. And so then it got even worse in California. So I knew I couldn't go back to San Diego. And so then, because I had resigned, the chair had to use my regular email to contact me. And she contacted me somewhere in July, August. And I thought it was going to be an adjunct, and it turned out that it was actually a temporary full time type of position. And so then I began teaching again fall 2022, and then up until now. And so the um, temporary full time position introduced me to teaching off campus in the dual credit high schools. We have high school students in our classes on the college campuses, but they tend to be the types of students who have a very good understanding. They have come up to the standard of college thinking. So we don't have really a lot of behavioral issues that you will find in the college environment. But when you go to the high schools, it's much more stressed. It's, oh my goodness, it's much more stressed. It's much more erratic. It's much more chaotic. You leave there literally, I don't know, with high blood pressure. You could have a heart attack. And so we were not prepared when we were training to teach in college, going through the graduate school route versus getting a teaching license. Usually people who want to teach in a secondary environment, which is K through 12, they get a bachelor's degree. They probably spend time in the discipline in the major, and then they study for the state teaching license, and then they get a teaching license, and then they apply for a job. For college teachers, it's not like that. It is a bachelor's, master's, PhD in English, or bachelor's, master's, PhD in history. And so you learn and you train and you student teach within a college environment. And it doesn't matter who the student is, whether that student is a high school student or a college student, and they're usually uh, college students, right? College age students. Uh, that's what you are used to. That's what you are accustomed to. That's what you train towards. So fall 2022 marks the very first time where I have to consistently go into the high schools. I started back in 2013 or 14, but then there was a gap, and then I didn't teach anymore. And then 2022 to 2024 is when I had to spend more time. So then, um, it's stressed. I'm not coming to the job or to the campus stress. Is once I get into the environment. The environment is very chaotic. It's very erratic. You don't have your own classroom, of course, because you're the college teacher who is who's visiting the classroom. So then you're taking over somebody's classroom, which is very nerve wracking because all of us are teachers, and when we get access to our boards, our whiteboards, we want to prepare the board. Well, here it is. I'm coming in as a college teacher for 1 to 2 hours teaching two classes, and I'm taking over somebody's classroom and I'm taking over somebody's board. So that means I have to erase. I have to erase everything on the board so I can put the stuff that I need to teach on the board. That bothered me very much because, again, we're teachers. And so I had to do this at multiple classrooms, right? And and then you're dealing with the teacher whose classroom you're using, wanting to bring some of their students into the classroom that you're teaching in. And the problem with that is that there's a liability issue when it comes to teaching students who are not on roster. So even though she's teaching them, but if they're in the classroom with me, it's a liability issue for my college. So then you have those issues, and it's reinforcing the idea that they cannot be here, and then catching some heat for that. Then you have just everyday secondary education environment issues where maybe a counselor is using the PA system to contact your student to leave your class to go talk to the counselor when the student is supposed to be in your class. The student has to be able to participate and gain points in your class, especially if you have an in-class only activity. So the stress of something like that, because then there may be times where you actually have to accommodate, well, that sets your schedule back. That affects how you're going to um, uh, manage the other students, right? Because if if this is an in-class only activity and you have to be in class in order to participate, and you don't get points if you're not in class, then that student could complain and say it's not fair because their counselor called them to the office. So you have that. Then you have sometimes the college guidance counselor who is responsible for scheduling the students into my classroom per semester. Sometimes you have some college guidance counselors who are very professional, organized. They know not to ask questions about students because students have privacy rights, right? When they're at college, when they are regular, just high school students, their parents can come in and talk to a teacher. When they are my college students, they have privacy rights under FERPA. And so I can't discuss their grades or I can't discuss their progress in my class. But rest assured, you will always have the college guidance counselor or some other type of counselor asking you. I know I'm not supposed to ask. They always preface it with that. I know I'm not supposed to ask this. So then you have to constantly reinforce this idea. I cannot discuss um, the student's record, right? Their progress in my class. So then, even on my own campus, I had a recent issue this spring semester we just finished, and I had a recent issue with a student success coach who wanted to send me some hasty email about one of my students and wondering if he was going to pass. When she sent the email, the semester hadn't ended. And in my class, as an English class, you have your last paper. And the last paper had to be turned in on a Thursday, and she sent an email on a Tuesday. And I had to reinforce this idea that I cannot discuss that student. It's too premature to tell you whether or not that student is going to pass or not. And so she resends an email, sort of upset. She's upset, and she returns an email and copies her associate dean, as if that was going to, use that to try to get me into trouble and, bully me or something like that. And I still have to reinforce the point that this is my student. And I'm not going to really tell you whether or not the student is going to pass because I don't know if the student is going to pass. The student has to turn in the last paper, which is worth 250 points. So then you have administrative stuff that you always have to deal with. Okay. Then you go into the classroom and you have a variety of students, college students, who want to be there, and there are some who don't want to be there. I can tell the students who are there to just learn. They don't have time for personal personal vendettas or anything like that. They just got to get their basics out the way. I'm their teacher. They have accepted it. No problem. Right? They engage. They ask questions. Sometimes they're quiet. They produce really quality, consistent, excellent work. But then you have some students, and they are really few and far in between, but you do have them who think they are kind of superior to you. Here it is, you're their teacher. You are a credential, degree, gone to college, completed training, professional development, all that kind of stuff. And you've been teaching for years. And somehow they think they are superior to you. So you can feel their hostility. You can feel how uh, they think about you. Sometimes it can be a gender issue, sometimes it can be a race issue, but I could be the same race as the student. If the student has that kind of attitude, that student is going to have that attitude with whomever. Um, um, regardless, right? And so then you have that, and then you have students who want to challenge you. And in some cases, when we're doing any type of challenges, it's a good discussion opener. There's nothing wrong with that. And I don't get so offended to the point that I can't receive what they're saying. I'm trying to process it. I'll put it on the board. I'll talk about it. I get everybody involved, and so that I'm trying to pace out the discussion so I don't get myself upset, because I can tell when someone is really trying to provoke me, and they're using the subject, the topic of that day, of that lesson, to try to provoke me into an answer that they can turn around and use against me. It's the type of person on your job who's trying to provoke you into saying something so that they can then turn around and go to HR on you. And so you have students like that. Then you have students who, that they can do better than what they are doing, but they are refusing. You know that they can come to class, but they are refusing. Some of my dual credit students who were supposed to be in class were all around the building, and they were in other areas of the building and wouldn't come to the classroom. And my classroom is an inviting classroom. It's a very productive, it's task intensive, but it's not one where you need to shy away and feel offended and feel like you can't do it. Because, truth be known, the majority of my students in all my classrooms come to class. And so if and the college students definitely have a choice to come to class because they are adults. But even in the dual credit high school students, they came to class. So it was just a good handful who would not. They'll show up. They think it's an online class. So then you got the frustrations of that. Okay. Then you have then you're dealing with students who are consistently uh, producing excellent work, that they care about the assignment, they care to listen to you, they care to receive from you. But then you got the distractions of students who don't want to be there. And so then you have this, you begin to form an attitude that you never thought you would ever form, because of the students who are distracting when you're really trying to teach everybody. I don't do personal favorites. When I'm grading your work, I don't care if you have achieved an A on previous papers, you still have to do the work on each paper. And you can easily get a B on the next paper if you don't do the work. Even if you are even if you think you may fall under the category of an A student. You're not an A student until you get an A in my classroom. And so the classroom is just, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. And for all the reasons that I have explored, and there are many, many more, and I'll probably do one where a separate audio lesson, maybe when I go on video to talk about it, that it's just such a tiring enterprise. I'm not tired of teaching. Again, I said this in a previous slide, that I'm not part of the viral movement of teachers quitting, or other people quitting their 9 to 5 jobs. No, I'm not tired of teaching per se. I just need a break from the classroom. I need a break. I need a break. And I felt that I needed a break this past semester, spring 2024, when I found myself catching an attitude about a group of students, dual credit students, who, when they come to my classroom, they're very disrespectful. They won't come sometimes, and then sometimes they'll come. um, um, and you can just feel their hostility. And I say, you know what, I have reached out to you. I have sent feedback. I placed feedback on all of your submissions. And I've done all I can. I've sent emails. I put this in an announcement for everybody. I've done so much to try to reach out to you. You know what? If you don't want to get it, you just don't want to get it. If you don't want to pass, you just don't want to pass. I'm not worried about whether or not you're going to pass. That's on you. And a part of that statement has some kind of truth and credence to it. But then I found myself catching an attitude like, if you fail, you fail. And I don't ever remember ever having that kind of attitude. And that's when I knew that I needed to take a little bit of break from the classroom. I also knew that I needed to take a break from the classroom when I found myself raising my tone with four students I asked to stay behind. The ones who keep coming to class late, um, um, being kind of disrespectful, things like that. And when I found myself raising my tone, that's the first time. I think the one time that I raised my tone with a student was back in 2013. The student was extremely disrespectful. She was an older woman, older than me at that time, and she called herself coming in like like it was her classroom or something like that. And she asked around, "What are we doing?" in a very disrespectful manner, but I kind of ignored it. And then she called herself pointing at me from a distance, and I knew she was trying to disrespect the situation. So then I had her to step outside, and I asked her, why did you set yourself up to fail?" And she didn't understand what I meant. She said that she came late because she had to take her child um, to the nursery, to the daycare. And I said, then why did you set yourself up to fail? And she was really offended by it, but she didn't understand what I meant. I said, so I had to clarify. I said, you set a class. This class begins at 8 o'clock. It goes from 8 to 9:20. You come in at 8:50. You know that you have to take your child to the daycare. You know that. If you're coming in at 8:10, 8:15, 8:20, that could be traffic, that could be trying to get to the campus, things like that. Okay, there may be some leeway with that. There's some points deducted, of course, but that's a little bit of leeway. You're coming in at 8:50. We're about to end the classroom by the time you come in. Why did you set yourself up to fail? And so she got upset. She stormed out, things like that, right? And so you have students like that. And that was back in 2013. And that's when the first time I've ever raised my tone in 2013. Fast forward 2024, and these are high school students, and I had to um, sit them down and have a conversation with them. And I found myself raising my tone. It wasn't as loud as 2013, but it was definitely a tone. And that's when I knew also that I needed time away from the classroom, because if I continue to keep going forward in teaching, especially in the classroom, it's either I'm going to be in jail, I'm going to have a mental break, or I'm going to have a heart attack. And so this is the time that I feel like I need time away from the classroom. I don't need time away from teaching per se, but I'm going to take this opportunity to only teach online with my college, so that I can address my life tired issues. So this is overcoming life tired setback. I need time away from the classroom. Go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. Also visit reginawhitefavorites.com for tips and resources. Thank you very much for listening. Hey, this is Regina White Favors with Overcoming Life Tired Setback. And so the topic today is, I need to move from financial stability to financial freedom. So this derives really from a decision that I made in 2013. I was living at the Salvation Army shelter, and I was just coming out of my homelessness, if that makes sense. I had gone through a correction process, from '06. It started '06, but the official correction started '08. And so from '08 to 2013 is when I went through a whole correction process for 5 years. But my total homelessness could have is really from '06 to 2013, and then there's some time after that. And so in 2013, April, I think April to May, I was there for April, and then I got on program in May 2013. And I made a decision. I said, you know what, it's time for me to pursue financial stability. That was the new decision regarding finances that I made. That's probably the first decision I've ever made concerning finances, at least in terms of a declaration. This is what we're going to do. So in May 2013, our goal is to get a job, keep the job, get a place, stay in the place until we become financially stable. And so that's what I did. 2013 May, I made that decision, a formal declaration, and then I moved out of the shelter somewhere between August and September when the job returned, and I got my first paycheck. So I have to believe it's September, between September and October, I say, when I had enough money to leave. So then I moved into an extended stay because I could not get an apartment. I didn't have enough income. I didn't have enough stable income. I didn't have. I think I had a prior eviction as well, and that happened sometime in 2000. I don't know, 11 or something, and 12, I think. And so I couldn't get a place. I just didn't have the money anyway. So I used the money from teaching. I was an adjunct, English adjunct, and we could teach 3 classes, and that was enough money actually to make it. The rent at the extended stay was 750. When I ended up leaving 2022 from 2013, it had gone up to almost $1,000, I think, almost 1,000. So it went from 750 to 825 to something else, and then 1,900, and then almost 1,000. But with that particular with the extended stay and the job, I paid bills, I paid taxes. I stayed in one place. I got stabilized. I knew what my rent was. I had to pay my rent, so I was being conditioned to pay my rent on the first every day. I mean, every month, because with the motel system, you don't you don't have a lease, and you don't have the option of paying by the fifth. If you don't have your money on the first every month, then you can't stay there. You have to leave. And so that conditioned me. Whatever strategies, financial strategies that I adopted when I was in an apartment, or when I was in the residential hotel in San Diego, um, where you have the option of paying late, and you just pay a late fee and everything. Like, anytime you've been conditioned like that, or you've conditioned yourself, you get used to that pattern. Oh, I can just pay late on the third, I pay the extra $25, right? Well, in actuality, you need to pay on the first. Period. You just need to pay on the first, because that's when rent is due. And so being in the extended stay helped to condition me to have my rent and have it paid on the first. So by the time I got into my apartment, November 2022, that's how that is my mindset. I don't ever want to be late. I have not been late, and I want my rent paid on the first. I get up in the middle of the night once the rent is visible in the resident login system, and and as soon as it is visible, I pay it. So that um, going that route from the homeless shelter to the extended stay, keeping a job, staying on the job, there were some distractions along the way, because anytime you engage in a romantic relationship, you're going to get distractions. But I still met that initial financial stability goal. And so it's true today, because then I've been able to keep my own place. I haven't had to move in with anybody. I haven't had to ask money from anybody. I make enough money to do what I need to do. So now Now my financial goal is financial freedom, because the financial stability moved me into financial wellness, where I was sick on and financially sick in one area of my life. I became well through stability. I don't know if I'm completely well, because we all have some form of um, issues with finances. Even the most rich person in the world can still have issues with finances. They just have a better cushion. So if they make a decision, a big financial decision, and it doesn't go well, they still have millions or billions of dollars in the bank. With my situation, it's not dire anymore, but it's still the type of situation that I still have to be careful about. I have to be careful about taking on relationships that might hinder my money, taking on family obligations that might hinder my money, um, overworking myself to the point that it hinders my money. Um, Being disobedient to God, because there's a scripture in the Bible: poverty and shame comes to those who refuse instruction. If I do anything that's going to fall up under the category of disobedience, and I'm going against the grain, I'm going against the goals, I'm going against the plan of God, that's going to affect my money. And so whatever seeds I sow in terms of finances have to be I still have to be mindful. I still have to be conscious, aware. I still have to be conscientious, in the sense that I need to do what's right, because right is right. And so there's still like some outstanding obligations that I'm working through, which includes student loans. I also still have an outstanding business loan debt that I took out back in 2012 that I still have to work through. But for the most part, my rent is paid. The credit cards that I do utilize are are for business, to keep from using my bank card, and I pay the full balance off at the end of the month. And so I've gotten a whole lot better, a whole lot better than what I was my 20s, my 30s, and part of my 40s. So now my goal is to move into financial freedom. Financial freedom does not always mean rich. Financial freedom means I want to be able to do what I want to be able to do without being encumbered. It doesn't necessarily mean that I need to do it, that is part of the plan of God for me to do it. But I want to be able to do it. I want to be able to have the capacity to do it if I had the opportunity to do it. I don't want to say I want to go um, out of town, or out of the country, but don't have the finances to do it. If I have the finances, I want to be able to do it. Now, you still have to check your ego. You still have to check your pride. You still have to check a number of things in your life. You don't, just because you have money and time doesn't necessarily mean you're supposed to do it. Sometimes you're supposed to wait. Sometimes the answer to your prayer is a yes, but not right now. Or it is a yes, but later. Or it is no, not no at all. Right? So you have to make sure you understand that. The financial freedom that I'm thinking about is for three of my businesses: Regina White Favors Limited Liability Company, Favors Marketing Solutions, Favors Marketing School, um, and then now will be Favors Publications. I want to be able to have the funds to go and spy out the land. So I've already done an exhibition. I was an exhibitor for Small Business Expo 2024 in Miami. I did the Miami Book Fair 2023, and I'm going to do it in 2024. I have another Small Business Expo in Atlanta in December, and for both Small Business Expos, I was able to not only exhibit but also give a workshop. Okay, all of that costs money. Now I want to be able to take Favors Publications to the London Book Fair. And not only will I need my passport, but I'm also going to need funds for not only the books itself, the um, the marketing materials, but transportation and hotel. So when I say that I want financial freedom, as long as I'm supposed to be doing exactly the thing that I'm considering, as long as God, as long as as long as the Lord is ordering my steps in that way, then I want to be able to do it. A lot of times when you don't make a lot of money, uh, you still have to make sure that your base needs are covered, meaning that food, clothes, shelter, any utilities, cable, internet, because all of that is necessary today. Um, and so I want to be able to do that. But now I have to be able to pay for airport transportation, transportation on the ground once I get there, hotel, food, uh, all of the marketing materials, all of the book samples that I would take, banners, retractable banners, any handouts that I want to get, be able to any shipping that I might want to do to that location, whether it's domestic or international. And so people who oftentimes have a bigger cushion, they their main worry is um, could be logistics, but they have the money to pay for logistics. So their main worry is just the organization, trying to build the organization, build the hierarchy. And a lot of times they can hire people for that. That's another financial freedom that when I was at the Small Business Expo, it was just me. It was a two-seater booth, but it was just me. And if I had had enough money to hire another person to sit beside me when I needed to go do the 30-minute workshop, then that would have been helpful. Or someone who understood the products to be able to speak as well. Sometimes I speak, sometimes they speak. For now, though, I'm the face of building brand awareness. I'm still not completely a brand. I'm building a brand. And so I'm the face of it. And right now, it's important that people see me. It's important that people understand me. It's important that people get a good understanding of my organization and what I'm trying to accomplish. So it's okay. But when I think about long term, year 2025 is going to be the year of sales planning. And so now I'm going to take all of the businesses, all of the products, all of the organizations, everything that I've pulled together. Some things I'm now making an LLC. Some logos I have now initiated the process for trademarking. Now I want to begin thinking about all of the materials I need to copyright. And so now I'm protecting the brand. I'm protecting the products. I'm making sure that everything is covered on that end. And so, financial freedom, then, it is a place where I need to be able to not worry about putting money on something. I don't always need to put money on everything. Not everything is an option. Not every goal you set is a goal that you need to set. But I would think that if I want to go out and spy out the land at London Book Fair, I want to be able to do that. I also, and that's May 2025. I also want to go to Oxford. Uh, Not necessarily the school to attend school, but to do research, and that's June 2025. And so that's going to take logistical information and everything, and that's a spy out the land situation as well. So the financial freedom is the type of financial freedom that I'm looking at when I need to hire somebody on the spot, when I need to print more marketing materials and ship them ahead of me, when I need to pay for just basic on the ground logistical information, cabs, cars, things like that. I need to pay for airport. I need to pay for hotel. What happens if I'm networking with an organization and they want to meet the next day when my flight is out on the next day? Okay, I can't do that, right? Because I don't really have the funds and resources to be able to do that. So that's what I'm saying. That's my next goal in terms of overcoming life tire is to move out of financial stability and with a hint of financial wellness into financial freedom. And again, this is not one of those types of situations where I want to be able to go on a yacht and I want to be able to go on a vacation and I want to be able to go to Cancun and Jamaica and I want to be able to fly here and go to Italy and live the good life. This is way beyond trying to live the good life. I have the good life now. I have my mind, my heart, my soul, my peace. I'm in my healing season right now. There's no need for me to go and find a yacht or something. Like, I don't have that kind of aspiration. I could care less about that. But I do want financial freedom. So a part of overcoming life tired is the life tired that's connected to being financially stable, even if financially stable is a good thing. That you want to move out of financial stability so you can now move into financial freedom. And again, this is not to buy a bunch of clothes. This is not to buy a bunch of cars. This is not to have a whole bunch of houses in different places. Even though for your business it might benefit you to have uh, multiple residencies. So for me, I feel like Miami is going to be my business stomping ground. I've already done the Small Business Expo. And I'm going to keep going to the Miami Book Fair. And I feel like it's going to be my stomping ground. So that means eventually I'm going to have an apartment out there because I want to be able to do business, and I can't always go and get on a plane and go back home. So it'll either be like an extended stay situation or a full apartment, like some condo situation. So that's another thing. If I'm gonna do business with Favors Publications in London, England, uh, at some point I'm going to have some kind of residence out there. Of course, that's going to be connected to whether or not I can stay on a visa or something like that, investor visa or whatever. But that's something that I would have to consider. Well, that's financial freedom because in addition to those residencies or those options, I still maintain my own place. I still maintain my centralized living so that I can come back to a home. I never want to be homeless ever again. That is something I never want ever in my life. And so I've already gone through that. I've gone through the judgment of that. I've gone through the correction of that. God is now in the process of restoring my life, and bringing me later into to reconciliation with other people. So this is something that I want you to consider when you're thinking about your finances, in particular, where you are, uh, what's going on with your finances. Do you feel like you are in a cage? Do you feel like you're in a prison? Do you feel like you just all you do is pay bills, or all you do is pay for your living? And financial stability is a good thing. You need to be in that mindset. You got a bunch of adult people who are in their 50s, 60s, 70 years old who are not financially stable. And as we know, we all had the opportunity to get to that kind of point in our 20s, 30s, and 40s. And so somewhere in those 3 decades, we did not do what we were supposed to do, to the point that we're now in our 50s, 60s, and 70s, 80s, having to return to work at Walmart, or having to return to work, or we don't have enough of a pension to live on. We don't have enough of disability to live on. We waited too long. That's part of being life tired. You wait too long. You think you have all the time in the world to do what it is you think you do. Or we rely too much on a romantic partner, even a marital partner. That person is the one who works, so I don't have to worry about anything. The problem is that person could die. And that's what people don't realize. That could be the man or the woman. It doesn't matter, the husband or the wife. Every adult person needs to have a job, or keep a job, keep a set of skills. Because if somebody dies or that person divorces you, it will be hard for you to jump back into the workforce. The workforce has changed so much. When I was going to school, I graduated in high school, from high school 1993. When I was going, it was about typewriters. By the time I by the time I graduated, it's about computers. And then when I graduated in 2005 with my master's degree, it was just about, prior to that, it was just about basic computer knowledge, applications, things like that. Social media changed the game, so that even whoever is going to hire you, you need to have some understanding of HTML formatting, code. You need to have some understanding of social media marketing principles, brand management, all different types of strategies that are now the minimum, not just your degree. And so now that we are moving into AI, it's going to be an AI situation. What knowledge do you have about AI? Uh, Different types of specializations, things like that. And so that could, if you don't know that information, if you don't stay connected and hip with the times, that's going to affect your financial stability. And then it's going to push you further back from financial freedom as well. So that's why you want to take some time to look at where you are in terms of your finances, your thinking around your finances. Are you still asking money from somebody else for just for them to pay for you some gas each week? Or are you still do you are you not making enough finances to make sure that you take care of yourself as an adult? You can't think about financial freedom if you don't have enough finances to take care of yourself as an adult. If the partner you're with, uh, if that person died or decided to leave you, can you still pay that rent? Can you still pay that rent? Can you still pay the utilities? Can you still pay for the food? Can you still pay for your transportation to and from work? Can you do that as an adult? Whereas this whole viral thing about going 50-50, 70-30, 80-20, and women needing this and men needing this, and women deciding to leave the workforce to go and become a traditional wife, or men deciding to be soft guy in their ears, that's not going to work for you when the economy changes. It always changes. The one thing that we learned from the pandemic is that the whole global system shut down, and people could not get to work, and people could not get to work and be able to earn money to pay for their rent, and people who could not get to work to earn money to pay for their rent lost their place of residence. It is not smart for anybody, any adult person, and anyone who is starting out at 15, 16 years old as a high school student not to have a job. Everyone needs to have some kind of job, even if you are a homemaker, a home staying home parent. Keep a 2-day job. It can be any type of job, but it keeps you connected to the system. So that's what I want you to think about when you are overcoming lifetime setback, when it's time for you to move from one area of thinking concerning your finances to another area of thinking concerning your finances and where you are. What's your gap analysis? So, this is overcoming life tired setback. I need to move from financial stability to financial freedom. Um, Please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for more videos, and then visit reginayfavors.com for tips and resources. Thank you very much for listening. Hey, this is Regina White Favors with Overcoming Life Tired Setback. So, the topic today is you need 3 times the cost for any business venture. This particular discussion really derives from, let's see, when I was trying to become a government contractor. This is somewhere, I think, in somewhere between 2010 and 2012. And I really want to say between 2011 and 2012. What happened was, and I've noted this on various videos. What happened was, I was so busy trying to make it. 2006 began my process in terms of correction because of disobedience that I did in 2000. And then the full correction happened between '08 and 2013. So I didn't have a job. I was doing freelance work. I had lost my place. Um, I was living at my mother's house, and then there were issues there, and I had to go back and forth to shelters. So I was, I think, in multiple shelters during that time span. And then I was able to return to work in 2013. So I was trying to make it. I was trying to make whatever money. It was during the financial crisis, and I was trying to make whatever money I could. And so somehow I got on this website. I mean the government's website to become a government contractor. So I signed up for everything I needed to sign up for at that time. And so then you begin to bid on contracts, right? You begin to bid on um, contracts you know you can do or you feel you can do. And so I was able to actually get a contract. I can't remember if it's with the Navy or the Air Force, and it was for to supply books. So here it is. I'm trying to be some business person, and feel fulfill the contract. Well, I didn't have the funds to fulfill the contract, so I went the loan route, and it wasn't a traditional loan. It was like accounts payable financing or something like that. So it wasn't going to be for the whole contract. So that meant that I didn't have enough money to pay for the contract. And when you get your money back from the client, uh, that's usually, you know, 45 to 90 days, right? And so then that money was actually going to be directly going back to the loan person because it's accounts receivables financing. So that meant that I wasn't going to make a profit at all, and I was actually going to owe more money. Well, I failed with that particular government contract because, first of all, I didn't have the financial capacity and capability to fund the venture myself. It's in some ways there's nothing wrong with going to use the contract as as leverage as an asset, right, to get a loan, but you also need to have the money yourself, right? And so I failed with that contract. They ended up having to terminate it for cause. And then I still have like an outstanding business loan with that accounts receivable company, so that's still outstanding, which I'm in a process of negotiating. And so what I learned from that process, I collapsed in my understanding about what I was doing. I don't know if that's the right word, collapsed, but I know what it is. I shut down. I didn't know how to solve the problem. I didn't know how to address the problem. So I ignored emails from the government a contractor. I ignored emails from the accounts receivable finance company, and I just didn't know how to do it. So I got into something before my time, and I got into something not having the knowledge. Just because you can go online and read about government contracting and get some Google results on it or something like that, does not mean that you understand what's really going on. Just because I can read a contract does not mean that I understand the implications of the contract at that time. I do now, but I didn't at that time. And so that's my first business failure. My first true business failure. And I call it a business failure because I think at the time I did go and get a business license um, um, while I was in Dallas. And so if you're just trying something out and it's an option, that's not always a failure. But if you set a goal to complete something, and I struggle to endure it. The thing about goal setting, it is set a goal, endure the goal, complete the goal. I didn't complete the goal, and nor did I really endure the goal. I set the goal. There was some enthusiasm and zeal. Oh, I got my first contract, but I didn't know what I was doing. So I failed. And so, what I learned from that particular process was that you need three times the cost for any business venture. Meaning that if your costs are $1,000, you need three times that cost in the bank. You also need to, of course, keep a job because that brings in stable income, right? And you can leverage that when you go to get a business grant or a business loan. But three times the cost is going to make sure that you can cover your individual personal costs, your everyday shelter types of costs, the cost of the project, and any assistance or anything that may come up as a result of trying to fulfill the contract. I'm still in no way near ready to return to that area of business, but I do feel like later in some area of my life, I'm going to have to return to it so I can complete it. I'm not going to be able to complete that contract, but because you have a failure in life, in the same way that you didn't pass a test, or you didn't pass a class, right? One semester, you're going to have to return to take that test over again so that you can learn what you need to learn and pass. And that's what I feel like later that's going to end up happening. I don't know when that's going to happen, but that's a failed test. That's an F on my record that that needs to still be addressed. But what I want you to take from this more than anything is that you need three times the cost for any business venture that you're interested in doing. A lot of times, if you have the job, I feel like in some ways the job will satisfy that because at least you have stable income coming in. So if you separate $1,000 because that's the cost of the business venture, $1,000, well, you're still getting a paycheck that's probably $3,000 a month or 4,000 or 5,000 or 6,000. So to me, that satisfies the three times the cost, right? If you're keeping a job. But if you don't have a job and you're going at this thing independent and you're wanting to become an entrepreneur, etc., then you need to have leverageable assets. You need to have some sort of investment products um, that will fulfill that. Like if it was three times the cost, you take $3,000 and you put it into some sort of investment product, right? So that if something happens, you can pull from that whenever it becomes available. There there will be tax consequences, of course, but you'll have it. So again, if your business venture is going to be 3,000, I mean 1,000, 3,000, 4,000, it doesn't matter what the amount is, whatever the costs are, and you got to know what those total costs are. To me, this is what I learned. You need three times the cost. You need three times the cost for any business venture. And sometimes, a lot of times, you're going to be spending money to get business, right? But if you keep the job can satisfy the three times the cost aspect of this. It can satisfy that. But if you don't have that, you're going to run the risk of losing your home, becoming bankrupt, um, messing up relationships, right? Messing up relationships with the bank, especially if you have leveraged your home. It's gonna be a mess, right? But if you have that, there's a confidence that you can have that you can move a lot um, much more stable and feasible. So that's what I learned from that particular process with the government contract. And I will have to repeat that process. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I will have to repeat that process. So this is overcoming lifetime setback. You need three times the cost for any business venture. Um, Please subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell for more videos. Also visit reginawhitefavors.com for tips and resources. Thank you very much for listening. Hey, this is Regina White Favors with Overcoming Lifetime Setback. And so the topic today is be careful making life decisions based on lies. The reason why this particular this particular topic is really connected to um, people who say that they're going to marry you when they have no real indication that they're really going to marry you, right? You begin to make decisions based upon a false promise. This doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic entanglement. It can be a business venture. It could be a number of things that you are now leveraging your mind, your heart, your body, your soul, your finances on a false promise. The person has not proved to you uh, that you are worthy enough to respect. And now you are making a life decision, a life choice on the potential of a person, even though the person does not have a record of actually accomplishing anything. It goes back to this idea of something that I keep seeing on social media a lot of times about don't marry for potential, be careful dealing with a trying man. Don't be a ride or die. And then you have some men who say, well, I need a ride or die type of woman, or some people who say I need a woman to hold me down, things like that. You always have to remember that we are actually adults, and adults need to be able and have the capacity to take care of themselves. It's not always that you need somebody to make $100,000, or you need somebody to make $600,000, or $1 million. First, you need to make sure that you are making that. You don't require something of someone that you are not doing yourself, right? That's one. Two, it's not so much the money that the person makes, it's whether or not they can take care of themselves as an adult. So even if the person is making $25,000 a year, or the minimum of $40,000 a year, do they have their own apartment? Can they pay their own rent without help? Do they pay for their car note and insurance? Do they pay for their own food? Is the uh, is the apartment furnished? It doesn't have to be the best furniture, but it's furnished. There's a bed, there's a couch, there's a chair, there's some dishes, there's some pots and pans. Are they living their lives as an adult, or do they still live in the house with their mother? And you have to judge that situation too, depending upon what's going on. If the person just lost their job and they may have to move in with their parents, okay, that's obvious. We're not criticizing that person uh, for having that life setback. Everyone has experienced some sort of life setback. Everyone has experienced some sort of job setback, whether you either lost your job or you got a reduction in pay. Okay, and then it affected everything else you got to do. Okay, that's what you want to measure whether or not that person can be an adult. Because if you have someone who only goes and gets a job just to get a job, and then within 6 months they have decided to quit the job, and they have this as a repeating pattern. Okay, that person is not stable, and you are making a decision. You're making a life decision based upon that person's life. They presented to you as a person who is stable and has a good job, um, and has income, right? But they didn't reveal that they are the types of people who will start mess at the job, go to HR, try to get somebody fired, write letters, uh, complain, have meetings or whatever, just for them to go on ahead and be fired later themselves. They purposely lose the job because they know they can depend upon you. That's a lie. They presented themselves as a person who was competent emotionally, psychologically, financially, and then when they get into your house, they create a situation. They provoke a situation at the job so they can lose a job, so they can then turn around and depend upon you because they know you're not going to quit the job, and they know you're not going to want to lose the place that they are now moving in with you, right? They know that you're going to pay the bills. There was this video of a woman who was mad that her boyfriend, that she gave the money to him to go and pay the electric bill, I think. And he decided not to pay the electric bill. He took that money and bought him some new shoes. And then in the video, eventually the lights are cut off. Well, in his mind, he knew she was going to solve the problem. So yeah, he went and bought her some shoes. He had no shame. It didn't matter. Uh, at some level, he presented as a person that she could trust, even with a basic bill paying situation that he didn't even have to use his money to do, to pay. He still was not trustworthy in that maybe test case. It could have been a test case. I don't know. But he still. And so then she eventually had to pay the rent. She called himself trying to put him out, but he knew she would accept him back. And that's what you do. You make these life decisions. You're going to move in somebody into your house, and a person cannot get his own house or her own house. They're complaining that they can't depend on anybody, but they can't even depend on themselves. You're making a life decision based upon lies, what the person has presented to you. And so be careful about the types of decisions that you're making, because there is this occurrence of people who are moving in together, women in particular, who are very successful in their lives, moving in bums, moving in losers. And those people come in, they take domain, emotional, psychological, cognitive, spiritual domain. Now the whole place and the woman looks like property. And so then they can exact whatever it is, whatever whatever destruction they want to exact in that environment. So then you can't sleep. You are always anxiety ridden. You can't go to sleep in your bed. You are afraid to go to sleep. You don't know what the person is going to do. One thing about the previous situation that I was in between 2013 to 2016, where I was not supposed to be in that situation, it was a fornicating situation, and I was going against God. And he wouldn't leave his ex alone. And what he would do was, because he was trying to impress her, he would go get really good jobs. But then when it looked like she wasn't going to take him back, he would stay on the job for a good 2 or 3 months just to prove to her that he can keep the job. But then when she wouldn't let him come visit her at her place, and they would go to a motel instead, he would find a way to quit the job. He he will find some kind of strategy to confront the boss, confront the supervisor, get on the supervisor's nerves so that he had to be written up, or he would set it up where he was hurt on a job and had to go to the hospital, and then maybe file for workman's comp. He will find ways to quit, and these were great jobs with brand name companies, and he always found a way to lose it. And so then one day, I called him a loser. And the reason why I called him a loser, I wasn't trying to be negative. I wasn't even trying to be sarcastic. I was calling it what it was, what he was. He would set himself up to win, but turn around and lose it on purpose. He's a loser. He got offended by that, right? And then everything began uh, to kind of self-destruct after that. And so, what I was afraid of is that if he kept losing his jobs on purpose, I was afraid of him being in the uh, in a place by himself. Because if I'm going to work and I'm going to work all day, he could easily bring in the ex, and then they can do stuff in the house, and that's what I was afraid of. So then I had to get very constructive. I had to get very strategic, and I started to position it in a way that he needed to keep the job so that he could save money, because that's how he got her in the first place. He had a lot of money saved, and so she let him come move in with him, and she basically spent all his money. But when I got him into that understanding that, keep the job so you can save back that money that you had before you moved in with her. Well, that positioned him into thinking that if he had that money again, that she would accept him back. And then I had a strategy. So he didn't know that I was planning my exit out of the relationship. What I was trying to do was get him to focus on one thing so that he can remain stable in that one thing, so that I can exit him out of my life, because it was never going to work. He was never going to leave the ex alone. He was never going to stop being disrespectful towards me. I was tired of being in that type of situation. I got myself in it, uh, based upon a lie to myself and a lie from him. And I made what would have become a truly bad life decision based upon a lie. So I want you to think about these relationships you're in, the decisions that you make, and uh, be okay with the idea that you don't have to have someone moving in with you. And the fact that they have to move in with you should tell you that they can't take care of themselves. If they don't have a stable income, and if they cannot keep their own place, have a job, keep the job, get their own place, stay on the job, stay in the place for a year, and then reassess after a year. If they've never had that, that is not the person that you need to be with. You're not going to be able to grow on their behalf. All they're going to do is bring you down to their level. and it's going to be very self-destructive. You're going to lose your money, you're going to lose your mind, you're going to lose your sanity, you're going to lose your soul. You're going Everything around you is going to be affected because it's going to be like quicksand. The more you try to pull yourself out of that situation, the more the quicksand is pulling you down. And so women in general need to stop moving in men. Successful women need to stop moving in men. You need to be able to have a conversation with men without sex and sit at a table, a dinner table or something like that, and let that person talk, because what they're trying to do is let you run your mouth and let you talk so they can listen to what you got. Because we always go, women are very good about this. They run their mouths about how much money they make, they run their mouths about what they spend their money on, they run their mouths about who they're helping, who they're giving money to, etc. And all the men are doing is calculating, well, if she spent $800 on this, okay, I know she can spend $800 on me. If she did this, if her rent is $3,200 a month, or her mortgage is $3,200, well, I know she makes at least three times that amount, right, at her job. If she's buying this type of furniture, well, I know she can do this. That's all they're listening for. They're listening for the money. They're trying to figure out what you got, and trying to figure out how they can use you to fund their lifestyle. And what it is that as long as they have a secure base, meaning that you're paying for everything, then that gives them the confidence and the wherewithal and the emotional peace, I guess, to go and pursue who they want to pursue. So here it is, you're paying bills, you're working yourself to death, 2 and 3 jobs, paying all the bills in the house, and they are now taking the money that you give them to pursue their ex or pursue a new woman. So be careful about, because now these women are coming up dead. These men that they have taken in, who were bums and losers and wouldn't do what they were supposed to do, they're now coming up dead. You also have some men who wouldn't make it work with their child's mother, who now decided to get a new girlfriend. And there was this recent case, YouTube video of a man. It didn't work out with his child's mother, so he got back in relationship with the woman he knew from high school, I think. And so they were going good for a minute, and then something happened to him. He went missing. Well, she chopped him up and she planted some of his body parts in different places or whatever. So here it is. He wouldn't work things out with an ex, with the child's mother. Go Returns to a relationship, an old relationship that became the death of him. He made a life decision based upon a lie. She likely presented herself as a good woman, as a woman who will be there for him, unlike his ex, um, and that's implied. Unlike his ex, and I got you. I'm gonna hold you down. I'm gonna do all that. When she was a liar from the start, you know that to be true because he's dead. He's dead. He's no longer here. Same about other licenses. There's this recent case about a young girl, 19 years old, who went out on a date with a 33-year-old, and he presented himself as a good man. The girl was black and the man was white, and he presented himself as a good man. Here it is, you are having a date with somebody, you are communicating, engaging, and it looks like, oh, he's a good person, so I'm going to go home with him. We'll have a one night stand and I go on about my business. No, he chopped her up, and I think he burned a car, and then he put her body parts in different areas of the city. She was in college. She was 19 years old, and she was going with this trend of black women divesting from black men and opening up their dating options and including white men. And it was the death of her. She made a life changing decision based upon a lie. And so we need to stop doing that. We need to pause. We need to think about our standards and our thinking and really research. We need to become our own study, our careful study. We need to stop looking out and looking for people and pulling at other people to solve issues that are inherent within us, apparent and inherent within us, and we're trying to get them to solve the problem called us, the problem called me, the problem called me, myself, and I. We need to take some time. We need to get out of this dating situation, this need for companionship, and begin to look within, because otherwise we're going to keep walking around emotionally blind and filled with emotional trauma and triggers and things like that. There's no way she could have seen this guy, or there's no way the guy could have seen this woman and thought to themselves, if something happens and it doesn't go right, um, that he's going to chop me up or she's going to chop me up. There's no way they could have seen that. So the person presenting in front of them was a lie. They represented a lie, and it was such a good lie that you would never ever think in your life that a person would do you that way. So this is something that I really want you to think about, because times are short, life is short, and it's getting very evil, very demonic, and people want to kill, people want to steal and destroy, and that's what the devil does. He comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and that's what people want to do. They want to be able to exact their revenge. They want to be able to exact the fantasies that are in their minds and hearts. Um, uh, to me, it doesn't always have anything to do with mental health issues. It has everything to do with free will, and they are purposely seeking out situations where they can now kill somebody. There was some situation with a woman who was an Uber driver or Lyft driver. She had a white woman, had 4 kids, and the guy who was the passenger comes in, pulls out a gun to her head, and he wants her to do something, give him money, cash app or something like that. And she kept telling him, I got 4 kids. And then he said, well, I got kids too. And then later it was found out that he shot her in the head. Well, she made a life decision to become an Uber driver. Becoming an Uber driver is not a bad decision per se, but something in that decision making led to a tragedy. uh, Maybe I have a better example. There was a woman, black older woman, taking care of her mother some time ago, and she had already had a full time job, and she wanted to take on Uber driving for extra cash for Christmas. But she had already had a full time job. Everything was fine. Well, she didn't know that a passenger had set in his mind before she even pulled up to his place that he was looking for somebody to kill. He was looking for somebody to kill. He said it. He was looking for somebody to kill. What I find, and it can be argued or challenged, but to me, what it seemed like in her thinking, she didn't really need the Uber job. She just wanted to do it for extra money, meaning that she had all of her needs met with the regular job. And so sometimes she made a life decision um, based upon a lie. And so she's dead as well. And so sometimes you may need to assess, do I really need to take on this extra income? Do I really need to take on this task? For people who have to work 2 and 3 jobs, which might include gig work like Uber, DoorDash, or whatever, they have to. That is something that they have to do. Um, but I would caution that if it's getting very dangerous with that situation, then you're going to have to set a goal to exit it, because otherwise it could mean your life. Meaning that people wait too long to make changes in their life. If you know you're not making enough money in this area, go take a class. Okay, but I can't go to class because it take up too much time. Then take the online class. Manage yourself, and then you take one class, you take another, you take 4 classes. That gives you a certificate um, in a program. That certificate then can take you into another environment from where you are now. This is not judgment. This is nowhere near judgment, but we have to really look at our decisions. Not every decision should be a decision that you make, even if it is uh, non-evil. It's not an evil decision. It's not a bad decision. It's a good decision. It could be a helpful decision, but sometimes you may need to do with whatever you got, with whatever you got. You don't always need to go do this. You don't always need to go do this. You don't always need, like some people are the types of people, they can't stay in the house. They have to be out somewhere. They have to be at a club. They have to run the streets. Well, the streets are getting very dangerous. If it's not road rage leading to death, it can be you just going into the cockamamie grocery store just to go get some basic items, and you end up dead because a shooter decided that he was bored that day and he wanted to shoot up the store. And then, I mean, there are some things that if it's your pattern where you go to the store on a Saturday morning, that's your pattern. Or you go to the store after church on a Sunday, that's your pattern. I get that. That's not something that I'm challenging. But when you feel um, uh, uh, some sort of intuition, something in you that's saying, no, not today, or let's just stay home, or don't go out, or wait to 12, or whatever it is that you're feeling, you need to heed that. You need to listen to that because you can make a life decision that can lead to your death, and you have no other opportunity of recovery. You're dead. So that's what I want you to think about, that be careful making life decisions based upon lies. It can be lies you tell yourself, it can be lies that people tell you, it can be lies that the world tells you, right? That it's okay to do this when in reality it's actually self-destructive to do this. So that's what I want to leave you with. This is overcoming life tired setback. Be careful making life decisions based on lies. So please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and also visit reginawhyfavors.com for tips and resources. Thank you very much for listening. Hi, this is Regina Y. Favors with Overcoming Life Tired Setback. So today's topic is just because you are celibate does not mean you are healing. This is crucial because a lot of times people think, I've been sort of guilty of this, that just because we are not dating anyone, just because we are alone, and being alone doesn't mean lonely, but you're not engaged in a relationship of any kind. No living situation, no marriage situation, no dating situation. You have considered yourself celibate. And celibate means that you are not having sex or anything like that, right? You just decided to pursue a single life in a particular season in your life. And so, what happens is, a lot of times when we are not with someone, we just assume that we are growing, that we are learning, that we are doing things that we need to do for ourselves. But a lot of times, what we do is we get into some other type of routine. We go to work, we go to the gym, uh, we spend time on social media, we hang out with our friends, and we kind of live a single life. It can be peaceful as well, and we don't do too much, and we're still happy with whomever we are at that time. But there are some areas of your life that still need to be addressed that you are not addressing while you are celibate. You're just, when you're celibate, you're just not having sex or you are not engaged in a relationship of any kind. But that doesn't mean that you have addressed your financial mismanagement issues. That doesn't mean that you have not addressed your toxic family dynamic, right? You have a situation where you struggle with your mother. Your mother may be a provoker, or your father may be a person you can't count on. He's in your life, but you can't depend on a person. And then you never make the connection that the partners that you keep choosing in a mate tend to be like your father. You can't count on the person. The person is indifferent to love. The father can be there for you in other areas of your life, but somehow in this emotional, cognitive, psychological way, that person is not there for you. They may be there for you more, financially. So you're not addressing that. You're not addressing the relationship that you have with your mother that's kind of damaging or codependent or abusive. Your mother could be a authoritarian type of parent, or your mother could have been your mother's parenting style could have been uninvolved or permissive, right? You didn't have that sit at the table teachable moment about why you continue to make the types of decisions that are not good for you. So then you take what you learned in that family dynamic and you move it into your everyday life, and that's how you govern yourself, that's how you govern the people around you, that's how you facilitate relationships. So you're not taking time to address particular areas of your life: finances, mental health issues, physical health issues, your eating habits, how you dress, how you may need to improve your look, how you may need to create a more polished look for yourself, depending upon where you want to take yourself. It's a lot that you're not addressing just because you're not having sex. Just because you are alone and not lonely, but you are alone and you want to spend time alone with yourself, that doesn't mean that you are taking the time to address particular areas. Uh, Specifically, if you're a Christian, and that's a Bible believing Christian, a person, not a person who just identifies with Christianity, but a person who is born again, saved Christian. If you are doing any form of committing any form of fornication, you are going against the will of God for your life. That needs to be addressed. What happens is, because you don't address it, you don't look in God's word, you don't get God's word of revelation about it. And then when you decide to come out of celibacy, or you meet someone and you fall into sin, you fall into fornication, is literally because you have not addressed the root of the belief system that you have. Many times people who fornicate, and this is an example of how you can be life tired. Many times people who fornicate often derive their belief system as, I need this for myself, I need this release, I'm not hurting anybody. I mean, we are human, we have needs, and I don't see what the problem is. And I really don't see what the problem is. I mean, I know we're going to get married, so what's the big deal? The problem with that is, when you're celibate and because you're not having sex, you think you are growing. You think you have learned something just because you're not having sex. The true test is when you get out of celibacy, you make a decision that you're going to date or be involved with a partner, is what you do then. Because if you bring the belief system that if you adopt the belief system that I'm not going to have sex before marriage, then you're going to have that belief system while you are celibate and while you are not celibate. You don't change up the belief system just because you now have a partner, right? Just because you now have a boyfriend, just because you now have a potential engagement, right? You must maintain that belief system even while you are dating, or even while you know for a fact that you're going to get married to someone. So the celibate aspect of you can mean a number of things. I don't think it always just means sex. It could be sober living, a person who is no longer going to participate in drug activity, addictions, alcoholism, or something like that. It could be sober living, and you decide that I no longer want to participate in that as a lifestyle. Well, while you are celibate and not having sex, and you decided not to drink and do drugs or anything else that is toxic as a lifestyle, when you come out of that, those temptations are still there. Those temptations are around the corner. They are always present, even though you are absent from that world, that lifestyle. Once you decide to re-enter the world of dating again, the temptations are there. That's why when you're a celibate, you need to address that belief system concerning alcohol, that belief system concerning drugs, that belief system concerning going out and partying and clubbing, that belief system concerned with one night stands, that belief system concerned with live in partners, cohabitating, not married. shacking up. You gotta take some time to journal what you believe about that, because the celibacy creates a really good hedge of protection around you. You just put in your mind that you're not going to do this again, or you're not going to do this right now, or whatever. You're not going to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, so you create a guard around yourself, and you adopt a different type of lifestyle so that you don't get into that. However, the mind can change towards now embracing a partner. And that's where you're going to actually be tested more than anything. Many people can go without sex for years, men and women, contrary to what people believe and think and argue and shout and promote and perpetuate. Many people can turn off their minds. They can turn off their hearts. They can turn off their bodies in their mind to not pursue sex. And they don't have to do anything else either. They don't have to pursue self satisfaction or anything like that. They could just decide not to do that. But someday, after that celibacy time, that you've been by yourself, someday, some season in your life, you're going to now want to pull at an opportunity to be in a relationship, to have a companionship, to have a friendship. You're going to want to move out of that isolation into now communication with other people, and therein lies the dangers, because it's I'm not saying that you need to be afraid to do that, or be afraid of the world, or be afraid to engage the world, but you have to know what your standards are. You have to know what your belief systems are. If you have uh, consistently, continually, perpetually put up with toxic relationships, just because you're celibate doesn't mean that you're not going to encounter that again. That's why during your celibacy period, you need to take out a journal book, a pen, a pad, and begin to journal those relationships. What was going on in those relationships? Why did I put up with that particular person for so long? Why did I let that person come in and live with me and eat up all my food, never contribute any rent, never did anything, and I gave that person my body, my time, my heart, my mind, and sort of like my soul. I gave that person everything, and that person gave me nothing, and I put up with it. Why did I do that? Why is it that I always have trouble with money? I don't seem to be able to manage my money. What's going on there? I always have trouble paying rent, or I always have trouble paying obligations. You may have to tap into the childhood, the family dynamic that you came from. If you came from a family dynamic where you always had to move, where you didn't have a stable place, your parents always had you at a friend's house, or you guys always had to move from apartment to apartment, from city to city. It can be a simple situation as your parents were in the military and you guys always had to move. You never felt stable. You never stayed somewhere long enough to make friends, um, to stick it out, to learn things like that. Well, you'll see that dynamic through no fault of your own from your childhood, but adopting accountability and responsibility in your adulthood when you move about like that. Even though you are not at fault because of how you were raised, you have to take responsibility as an adult. Why do you keep moving from place to place? Why do you keep sleeping on somebody's couch? That's homeless. That's what that really is. If you don't have your own place, meaning that your name is not on the lease, even if you are roommating with someone, or quote unquote roommating, if your name is not on the lease, you are considered homeless. They can kick you out at any time. And then if you stay beyond your time and refuse to leave, you will be considered a squatter. So in this celibacy time, just because you're celibate does not mean you're healing. That is what that actually is. You're just celibate. You're not having sex. You're not engaging in certain types of lifestyles. But there's a misunderstanding that needs healing. There's bad bad financial management that needs healing. there is a relationship dynamic that you may be struggling with that needs healing. Um, um, there is an area in your body that you keep overlooking that needs healing. So there's the process where you are celibate, and then there's a process there's a season of healing. And healing, I think, in some cases may be connected to reconciling yourself, not always having to reconcile with other people yet, but just reconciling some of the decisions that you've made, making peace with them, trying to understand why you went down that route, so you don't have to go down that route again. Or when you are confronted, once you exit celibacy, you don't fall. You, you don't find yourself falling again. That's what happened to me. I went through a whole period of celibacy. Let's see, I think it was 2000 to 2013, and I didn't have sex. I was just by myself. I was going to school. I was just doing a number of things, and then also that was from 2006 to 2013 was when I was going through my correction. I was homeless, things like that. So I didn't have time to worry about a relationship. Coming out of homelessness and correction in 2013, I run into a devil. I run into a devil. And so I ended up falling. And here it is, I am a born again Christian, and I ended up falling into sexual sin. And it took about 2 years and 8 months for me to make a decision to get out of that situation for good. Well, 2016 to now 2024 is when I began somewhere in that process to address how I allowed myself to compromise myself, why I stayed in that relationship so long, why I put up with it, why I was in fornication and things like that. And now in 2024 is when I'm actually in my healing season. So after that situation 2016 to now, I'm celibate. But I realized from the time of 2000 to 2013, I never addressed the areas of my life that needed to be addressed, namely fornication. And because I did not do that, I ended up falling in 2013 and struggling in a fornicating relationship, rationalizing it as, well, I know we're going to get married anyway. So why don't we just go ahead and live together? We can work this out. Well, we never got married. He kept cheating with his ex. He wouldn't let the ex go. And then once I let him go, finally got up the courage to let him go. And what happened with that situation, he wanted me to really compromise. He had no intention of marrying me. And what he said one day bothered me. He said, why don't we just be together and fulfill each other's needs, right? And he's talking about mainly sexual needs. And something about him saying that bothered me, because I was of the understanding, which I now interpret as a misunderstanding, that we were going to get married. And that's the reason why I decided to go the route of living together before we got married. When he said that, it revealed to me that he never had any intention of marrying, not me at least, right? And so here it is, I'm compromising myself. So it was the metaphorical fork in the road, brick wall that I was confronted with when he made that statement. And I had to make a decision. Either I'm going to stay in fornication, stay in uh, that's going to lead to a cursed state for my life where everything no longer works, nothing works for me, and I'm just going through the motions, or I'm going to make a decision to exit that and leave that relationship, repent, renew my heart, and go through a healing season. So that's actually where I am now. And the healing season really began 2024, even though I've been out of that relationship since February 2016. So a lot of times there are some things that need to be addressed along the way, and then you realize that I haven't been healed. I haven't gone through a healing process, and that's where I am. So just because you are celibate Just because you're not having sex does not mean you are healing. You're just not having sex. You're just not engaged in certain lifestyles. You're not dating. You're not going out. But while you are in the house by yourself with no distractions, you're not lonely, but you're just by yourself. And whatever that season is, celibacy for you could be a season for you, right? While you are by yourself, that is the best time to address and confront you, who you are as an individual, because we attract who and what we are. And so if we keep attracting a bum or a loser, somewhere we must believe we are a bum or a loser. Or there are some aspects of our life where we are a loser. For example, if you attract someone who can't manage their finances, they always end up having to move with somebody, whatever, then look at your life. Where have you done that yourself? Where have you lived like that? Where have you committed that offense against yourself? Where have you taken what's supposed to be your rent money to cover somebody else to make sure that person is covered? If your rent is $1,200 and you have $2,400 in the bank, you don't have the rent to give to somebody. That rent, that extra $1,200 is just next month's rent. If you had $12,000 in the bank and your rent was 1,200, to me that's your rent. That's not necessarily something to give to someone, right? Depending upon the situation. So that's stuff that little things like that can become big things in your life later, can affect who you attract, what you put up with, why you keep engaging in certain types of relationships that are not good for you, because it's the little things, it's the little root causes of your decision making that you need to address. And while you are celibate, that's the time to do it. There's no one coming in and out of your house. There's no one living at your house. You don't have to fund anybody else's lifestyle. You fund your own. You come in, you clean your house, you cook for yourself, you exercise, you bathe, you wash, and you do that on repeat. You go out and work, and then you come back in, and that's a good routine for you now to get into your word, also your Bible, and to also take out a journal and start journaling you, so that you don't engage in more destructive, self-destructive behaviors to the point that it takes you out of this world. Because fornication, uh, regardless of what people say, fornication leads to self-destruction. It leads to some form of destruction. And so this is something that you want to consider. So this is overcoming life tired setback. Just because you're a celibate does not mean you're healing. Okay. Um, Please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. Also, visit reginawhitefavors.com for tips and resources. Thank you very much for listening. Hi, this is Regina White Favors with Overcoming Life Tired Setback. And so the topic today is you are not a rehabilitation center. This is largely dedicated to women, most importantly. Men can have this type of trait where they want to be everything to everybody, too. So I'm not negating their experiences. However, women tend to be the predominant gender who will rearrange, restructure, reorganize their whole lives around a particular person. It could be a family member, it can be a friendship, it could be a romantic partner, and become everything that that person needs in the woman, right? In other words, they will become a big mama. They will become a nana. They will become a single woman. They will do whatever they have to do to make life easy and make life work and make life functional for that person. So if you look at this from from the immediate family dynamic, a lot of times what you do as an adult has some sort of indication or implication from of how you were raised, how you were reared, how you were nurtured, the values that were imparted into you. So if your mother raised you as a mule, to be a mule, meaning that you were probably the eldest daughter, like myself. You were likely a latchkey kid if you are the oldest sibling, and you had to do everything. You had to cook and clean. You had to gather your siblings. You had to take care of your siblings while your parent was at work. And even when the parent came home, you're still cleaning the house. You're doing a lot of manual labor as a child. It's not, there's nothing wrong with chores per se, but a lot of times when there's a stress filled, toxic environment within the family dynamic, it moves from chores, everyday chores that you would be expected to complete, to sort of like slave like conditions. I'm not saying those conditions are bad in the sense that you're not truly a slave, right? But the way the parent was raised from his or her parent and the grandparent and the great grandparent um, uh, basically informs how that parent raises you. And then, of course, they loosen their grip later when you have kids or your kids have kids and they are a grandmother or great grandmother, because they learn differently. They learn as the generations come and life ages them, that they have a better understanding of what parenting really was supposed to be about. I still agree with spankings. I still agree. I don't necessarily agree with hardcore whippings that we used to get when we were children, but I do agree with some form of discipline, right? So if you are used to that and you have been exposed to that, and some harsh, some good, some productive, some teachable moments, then that's how you're going to engage the world. When it comes to you being in a romantic relationship, if you don't learn differently how to connect with a man from a romantic relational standpoint, viewpoint, instead connecting with him as if you're going to become his mother or function like a mother, then that's going to have negative implications for your relationship. And then you're just going to eventually move and transition into becoming a rehabilitation center for that person, because the man is then going to step into the role of a child and thinking like a child. And if the man does not, and at that point, he's not really a man, he's a male. He's part of the male gender. So he has not had any real understanding about what it means to be an adult, to take on adult responsibilities, to keep a job, to keep a place, to pay for that place on his own without help. Unless there are some life setback issues, like he lost his job or something. If he never left his mother's house or his father's house, that's a problem. And a lot of times you may have grown adults, I mean grown kids, move back in with their parents, and that could have been due to a divorce, that could be due to losing a job or something like that, but they still have a history of living apart from the parents. They know how to have their own place, they know how to pay for their own bills, they know how to run themselves as an adult. But when you don't have that in a partner and you move that partner into your house and you don't take inventory of who they are as a person, as people, you don't know, they never revealed to you that they've never had their own place. They never revealed to you that somebody else has always paid their bills. They've kept women on the equivalent of a dating rotation. And so they had one woman who paid for this, another woman paid for this, another woman paid for that, right? All of the women cooked and cleaned and gave him sex. And then he probably had a main person that he cared about more than all of the other women. And so basically he just put them in rotation. So when one doesn't want to do something, he'll get somebody else from the same rotation. If she doesn't want to do it, then he'll replace her. And so all of those women are replaceable. All of those women have a role to fulfill, and if they don't, he dismisses them. Okay, that's his mentality. That's his mentality. And now you're moving him in. You're thinking that it's going to transition into a marriage long term. cohabitation situation. All you are end up doing, though, however, is becoming a rehabilitation center for him. So every time he needs something, he comes to you. Every time he's brokenhearted from one of the women he's been uh, uh, cheating on you with, you come back and you mend his wounds. Right? You cook him dinner. You give him sex. You give him money. You let him drive your car. You do a number of things so that he can get whatever he needs to get from you, get well for a time, and then turn around and go right back out to whoever keeps hurting him, whoever keeps hurting his heart, messing over him. A lot of times that's a Jezebel spirit, because sometimes a Jezebel spirit is the type of spirit that will say to the person, I can call you anytime I want to, and I know you'll come running. And so then, if they are in that kind of mindset and in that kind of emotional and psychological triggered trauma, then it's going to affect how you deal with the person. It's going to, because then he may be triggering something in you from your own childhood. And here it is, you are codependent, trying to make this false relationship work, when in reality you're just being a mule for the person, and the person is just using you like a rehabilitation center. The person is just using you like a Walmart, a Burger King, or whatever, right? You're eventually, I mean, essentially you are a utility, not a relationship, not a partner, not a person that the person loves, right? And so when you're thinking about this and why you have gotten to the point of being life tired, the person that you're with now, you have attracted, and it's a toxic situation, you can pinpoint how many times you have dealt with the exact same person, but with a different face. The person you are dealing with now is just a different face, a different season in your life. But if you go back to your high school days, if actually go back to your family dynamic, you can see that person. That person could be in your mother. That person could be in your brother, who always asks you for money. That person can be in your father, who you could not depend upon. The person could be in the mother, who was indifferent in terms of love towards you. The person could be in the environment from your family dynamic that was very toxic and hostile, right? And so, if you chart, if you graph and link that person, your family dynamic, to the person that you might have dealt with in terms of a bully in elementary school, and then you went to high school and you had issues with the boyfriend who was cheating on you, and then you got to your early 20s and you moved in with somebody, and that that situation became kind of violent, or some form of domestic violence. And so you have all these different experiences, and the person that you're looking at now, 20 years later, 30 years later, or 40 years later, is really no different than the person you dealt with in your past. There's somebody that you dealt with in your past that you did not address, that spirit that keeps following you. It could be a rejection spirit, it could be a fornication spirit, it can be an abandonment spirit. It can be a number of types of spirits that keep following you, and they are masquerading in individual people. If you have a friend, every time you turn around, you think you can depend upon that friend, but somehow that friend, somehow when you need help, you can't depend on that person. I remember a person when I was going to college, and she would call me all day, and was such a very nice person, very, very nice person. And but she would want to talk all day, right? And we're not talking about 30 minutes, an hour, or even 2 hours. We're talking about the whole cockamamie day. She wanted to take up so much of my time. And that began to bother me, because a lot of times you get distracted with the conversation, especially if the person is a great communicator and you are engaging in communication on really popular topics or something like that, and you want to kind of stay engaged, but you don't realize that time has passed by. You should be doing your homework, or you should be cleaning your house, or you should be cooking a meal or something like that. Well, fast forward, I got into, I talked about this on a previous audio. um, I moved in with a friend, girl, It was an unequally yoked situation. Um, and then it turned sour. And then I was able to get my apartment back, but it wasn't going to be available until about 2 days. So I ended up having to stay with one of the other friends we all used to know. She let me stay at her house for about a day or something like that. And then I was able to go and get my apartment back again. I moved everything in, etc. But I was in a research program, McNair Scholars Program, and I needed to, when I came back to town prior to getting my apartment, I needed about a couple of days to stay in somebody's house, in a friend's house, so that I could do the presentation and then I could get the rest of the money that was connected to the research project. So we got a certain amount of money per month for being McNair scholars, connected to going to classes, doing the research, etc. It was like a grant, a scholars program grant. But in order for you to get the remaining balance, you had to do the presentation. And that balance was very, very high. So what I needed was, I told her that I would give her a certain amount of money, um, um, to stay at her house. I just needed that night. I just needed that night. She refused. She talked to her sisters and she refused. And so that left a bad taste in my mouth. But I had to get over it. I found another friend who I used to know in college, and she let me stay, and I gave her some money, and then that was it. So I was good for the money. And then when I returned and everything came back to normal, me back in my place, she wanted to return to a friendship um, in the same way that it was before, where she took up a great deal of my time. The problem with that situation is that I was partly her rehabilitation center when she wanted to talk like she wanted to talk for for hours. When I needed help, and my situation was actually really dire. When I needed help, I couldn't depend upon her. And I learned a valuable lesson, and I didn't learn this lesson about being a rehabilitation center until really now, within the last few years. But I learned a valuable lesson not to give over all your time and your mind and your heart to people. There's nothing wrong with being there, and she had every right to reject um, my request, right? But if I was there for you, and no, you should not always accept a reciprocal. Um, you should not always accept for somebody to uh, do for you just because you did for them. But relationships cannot be one sided forever. They cannot be one sided perpetually. And so the fact that she was not there for me in a dire situation, not this was not a crying wolf situation. It was truly a dire situation. We ended up having well, I ended up having to let that relationship go because I was an emotional rehabilitation center for her, but when I needed a physical quote a basically rehabilitation center, I just needed to stay on the couch for one night so I can go do the presentation, and I was going to cash the check and give her the money. It's the exact same thing that I did with the person who actually opened her doors. And so that's something that I want you to think about, because as much as we always accept our relationships to be reciprocal on some level, there's always inherent some expectation that if I come pick you up at your job uh, because you missed the bus, and here it is, all of the buses have stopped, and you called me because I have a car and I come pick you up. I'm not saying that I'm going to create a situation where I'm going to test whether or not you're going to be reciprocal, but I would expect that if I don't always ask you for stuff, if I don't always if I'm not the type of person who's always asking you or testing you, testing the endurance of our friendship or relationship, that when I do get into a need, and if I'm asking you, that's very big of that's hard for me to do, to ask you for help. If I'm asking you for help, then that lets you know that that's a true um, um, request for help. So then, when you know that people do not always apply a reciprocity or a reciprocal attitude towards you, it's time to really set boundaries with people. So Instead of being the person who volunteers your time to go do something, understand that that person is grown. And a lot of times, the people who are asking you to do something for them are usually people who have cars, who a lot of times they are near the very thing that they're asking you to do or to go over. I remember a time when I was in school, and there was this girl who would always ask me about particular whatever it was, right? And I was riding the bus, and she had a car, and so she said, "Yeah, can you stop by there and go get this whatever the thing was at that time?" And so, like a dummy, I would say, well, it's on my way. And so I kind of stop by there all the time. So, yeah, I can go by there. It's not that big of a deal. Well, it actually was a big of a deal because once you're on the bus and you're going home, you want to go home. You don't want to get off the bus unless you truly have to get off the bus. And so when I realized, I got the revelation that this person who is asking me to do something for her, to inconvenience myself, my life, my body, my time after I've had a long day in classes or teaching or anything like that. This person who is asking me to do this is a person who has a car. And when I realized that the person was using me and that I was using me to people please the person, I had to change my life view. I had to change my life strategy, how I did things. So then I began to set boundaries with the person and say, that office is open between 8:30 and 5. You are usually done with your own classes by 12, so you have a car. You can just swing by there and pick it up. And then she would say something like, "Yeah, but it's not on my way. I mean, it would be out of my way." Well, me getting off the bus is completely out of my way. That's going to be completely out of my way. So the more I started to reinforce this idea that you need to do it for yourself, this is not an emergency situation. This is a dire situation. This is not a dire situation. Then if it's not that, then you need to take your grown self in your grown car over there and do it yourself. There is a exception to a rule. I remember a friend, she was a friend of the other friend that I had who I ended up having to lose a relationship with. Well, she didn't have a babysitter. She had a baby in college, and she didn't have a babysitter. And so she had to take a test that was a final test for graduation. So she asked me to keep the baby. Okay. Well, that's a more emergency based situation. If she can't take that test, she can't graduate. She can't graduate. She can't get a job. She can't get a job. Right. She can't take care of her child. That's a different type of situation. But even in that situation, when I look back on that, in some ways she was using me as a rehabilitation center because she couldn't call on the father. What was the father? The friend that I was living with, who she was actually friends with, she couldn't depend on her. She didn't have the money to put the child in um, a daycare situation, and all of the people that she favored as friends, she couldn't depend upon them. But she called upon me uh, to be of service to her. Later, when the situation with the friend went south, she too started to act silly towards me. So I thought it was so interesting. You couldn't get anybody else's help. You could not get anybody else's help but my own. But at the end, you still ended up mistreating me because you were trying to impress your friend and support your friend. And I learned a valuable lesson. Don't volunteer your time, of course, but don't be everything that you need to be to somebody. Uh, do look at do look at situations whether or not they are truly emergency based, and if they're not, they need to find another option. You cannot be a rehabilitation center for people because no matter what, a lot of times when people are using you like that, they are really hostile towards you and they don't really like you. They don't respect you. They don't like you. And they feel offended that they have to actually ask you for help. And so then once they will humble themselves in that moment and get the help. But then once they get the help and they get better on their feet, they start acting stupid towards you. That messes with your heart and your mind. That messes with your finances. She never even paid me, and I never even required her to pay me. And so that's another issue, that if you're going to do anything for anybody, You need to set boundaries in terms of finances. You want me to take my time. If you had to go and pay somebody else, if you had to go and use somebody else, you would have to pay them. And so it's the same conversation that many parents are having today about their mothers and fathers who are the grandparents of the kids, don't want to keep the kids without some kind of payment. If the parent had to take the child to the daycare, they would have to pay in excess of hundreds of dollars a month. So then why don't you give that to the grandparent? But they don't think that the grandparents should charge them anything. That's one. And they don't think that they think the grandparents should want to keep their grandkids. Sure, grandparents want to keep their grandkids, but on their own time. Grandparents have right to be able to live their life. They've already taken care of their kids. They're one, two, three, four, five kids. So now you want your mother or your father to now take care of your kids? No, that's not fair. You had those kids, you need to take care of those kids. That's it. If it is a dire situation, an emergency based situation, uh, that you that is just what it is. If you got to go for an interview, a job interview, or something like that, that's just what it is. Okay, then we look at that situation by situation, and maybe I can be of help to you. But in a season, I'm not looking for you to come back and live off of me forever, and eat up all the food in the house and run up all the light bill, electric bill, and hardly pay any rent when you got money. You can't do that. You cannot use me as a rehabilitation center. And that's what a lot of people are doing. So as you go over your life and you start to chart some of these patterns and behaviors that you have a strong commitment to, but that are also breaking you down and contributing to your self-destruction, as you do that, I want you to think about yourself as moving you out of this mindset of being a rehabilitation center. Women who take in men just out of prison, you are operating like a rehabilitation center. Let that man go to the halfway house. Let the resources, the people who are trained to help that person at the halfway house or at the shelter or wherever, let them help your man. Because the more because he hasn't proven himself. He doesn't know what he wants. And all he's going to do, because he doesn't have any skills, he done been in prison for so long. He's already insecure about that. You're paying all the bills. So now he's, for ego reasons, is going to look for another woman that he can be a man with. And so here it is. He's living in your house, and you are rehabilitating him, but you're only rehabilitating him in terms of him being able to have the capacity to now be with somebody else. It's the equivalent of being a come up woman. That they'll use you, your body, your resources, your mind, your heart, your finances, to get themselves well, to get themselves well, only to then leave you and go with a woman, and marry a woman too, who did nothing for them. So I want you to think about that. Really, really think about that, because going forward, you can't afford to be a rehabilitation center in your 40s and your 50s and your 60s. Your time is too short for that. You could have a heart attack dealing with fools. You'll lose all your money. Your money will burn in your pockets dealing with fools. And so that's not something that you want for yourself. So this is Overcoming Life Tired Setback. You are not a rehabilitation center. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, visit reginayfavors.com for tips and resources. Thank you very much for listening. This is Regina Y. Favors with Overcoming Life Tired Setback. And so today's topic is, be sure that you have the capacity to solve the problem. Many times, the reason why we oftentimes get um, burned out or we become life tired is usually due to this idea that we're trying to solve problems for which we do not have the capacity. For example, There could be a relationship problem, whether it's a friendship, a family dynamic, or romantic relationship. And we're trying to cover someone else, and it's having a negative impact on our own lives. The person who is an adult um, maybe lacks a job, right? Doesn't want to get a job, or maybe refuses to get a job. They don't want to keep a place. They don't want to do adult things. So then what happens is we often volunteer our time, we volunteer our mind, we volunteer our heart, our resources, our finances to try to cover them. Wherever they have a gap, we see the gap, or we discern the gap, we interpret it as a gap, we call it a gap, and then we become the gap filler. The problem with that strategy, because there may be times where you may have to actually help somebody in their life. The problem with that strategy is that in your own regular waking real life, you have your own issues that you need to work through. You have your own adult responsibilities that require you to be conscious and conscientious about um, addressing them and resolving those issues. Every part of our lives has some form of setback. Every decision that we make, there's a consequence in it. There's a setback likely worked in it. There's a delay in it. And then there's some moving forward, right? And when you take on the responsibilities of adult people, and I'm not talking about these adult people who might be experiencing a life setback, maybe they ended up having their house burned down, or there was a flood, a natural disaster, they lost their job due to the pandemic, or the financial crisis. Those are exceptions to the rule. I'm talking about everyday people where there's calm and peace in the land, and there is no inclination for that person to go and be productive in life, to go and keep a job, to maintain their own place, to pay for their own place, and not always ask money from other people. When you cover that person, you deplete your resources, you deplete your time, your mind, your mental faculties, your psychology, your spiritual, your relationship with God. You deplete so many areas in your life. And even though it looks like you are going and you are surviving the situation, you've gotten over the hump and helping them, and then it took a little bit of out of you, but you didn't collapse, you didn't die or something like that. All you are essentially doing is storing up what later become a burnout. You are storing up delays in your life where you need to address particular areas in your person. It could be trauma that you never got a chance to address because when you were a child, you were told to shut up. You didn't have an opinion as a child. Then when you got to your 20s, you still couldn't speak. You still couldn't do the things that you really wanted to do. You couldn't speak your mind. And then later in your 30s and your 40s is when you really wanted to start expressing yourself. But then you brought in another relationship that kind of created a distraction in your life. You might have fallen in love, or it might have been a relationship where you entertained a toxic dynamic. And so you keep delaying and delaying and delaying healing. And I have a great example of myself. I remember back in 1998, that's when I had the opportunity to begin a reflection process. I had just exited a relationship that where the person called me out of my name, and I ended that relationship. And then I said to myself out loud while I was in my house, I said, I'm tired of dealing with this type of stuff. I need to figure out what's going on with me and why I keep attracting the same kind of people. So I'm not going to get involved with anybody. And instead of adopting and beginning that process, what I ended up doing that day was, okay, I'm just going to go to the mall, walk around, maybe go to the movies. When I did that, I ran into a devil. I literally ran into a devil. And so then that created a distraction that hindered the healing process. uh, that relationship became a very toxic, domestic violence type relationship. I actually had to call the police. I let them come live with me. Um, it was a number of factors, right? And so then that relationship officially ended, but then I still did not give time to healing, because then I was able to I got back on track. That relationship and the friendships before that relationship took me off track. And so whenever you are trying to redeem the time, you want to get back on track. So I got back on track. I enrolled in college, in community college. Then I transferred to the university, San Diego State University. And then I was on track. Now, I still had distractions. I still got into distractions, of course, with friends, friendships, but I did not necessarily engage in another relationship again. And so um, that was from 98. I got into, I think I was in community college 98, then 99 to 2002 for university, and then I got my master's in 2005. And so no relationship. So from between 2000 to 2013, I was not in a relationship. I did not entertain any other type of activity as well. And so then I said in a previous audio that in 2013 I met another devil. And the reason why I kept meeting devils is because during the time I was by myself and I was celibate and I was not entertaining any type of relationship, I did not take the time to address my pain. The pain of running into devils is something that started when I was younger and I was molested. That was truly my first devil, right? If you want to call it that. That was truly my first devil. So that person who molested me when I was younger was a person that showed up when I was older, just with another face. And it showed up again after a period of time where I was by myself and I thought I was safe, and it showed up again. One 98 and one in 2013. And the reason why that type of person keeps showing up, and it can be any type of person who you are used to in terms of a devil or a distracting force, right? Someone is trying to, it could be a jealous person, an envious person. Someone's trying to kick you off your path. That's essentially who that type of person is. Anyone who is trying to keep you off, kick you off your path, trying to compromise you, or usher you into a process of compromise where you are doing drugs, where you may be prostituting yourself, you may be stripping, you may be doing all these different types of things. You may be sleeping with a lot of different people. That goes for men and women. And so that person is whoever that type of person is. A lot of times you can find that person from childhood. Someone started you down that path. Someone introduced you. If you are still struggling with drugs at 40, 50, 60 years old, someone introduced you to that somewhere in your teens, when you were a teenager, or in your 20s or your 30s or your 40s, right? And so that situation, I kept running into a devil because when I was alone, when I had time to myself, I didn't take the time to address whatever pain I had. I wasn't journaling. I just was by myself. And so it took to 2024 for me to come into this understanding that I need to address pain. I need to actually heal. So although I tried to begin the process in 1998 and I got distracted, I'm in 2024 now, and this is the first time I'm addressing healing. I'm addressing any type of processes that I did not do before. So when you are trying to think about how to solve a person's problem or solve somebody's problem or take on a leadership role or take on any type of role that requires you to solve a problem, be sure that you have the capacity, because sometimes a job could be for you, but it could be ahead of your time. You're not ready mentally. I said this in a previous audio as well. I was supposed to interview for a full-time teaching position, and I got the call. Well, not the call, but I got the email. inviting me to an interview, and also the teaching demonstration. And so I was shocked because I had received um, rejection letters regarding that position. So just out of the blue, I get an email. So I'm like, okay, no problem. I'll go ahead and get everything together. I got the PowerPoint, I got the teaching demonstration stuff that I wanted to go over. I I, I was preparing. That was a Friday evening. Then I got up on Saturday, and I was getting everything. I was basically finalizing what I know that I was going to talk about and the types of handouts that I was going to give to the faculty committee, the hiring committee. By Sunday morning, literally by Sunday morning, I did all that prep work and I was ready to do it and somewhat excited as well. But by Sunday morning, I knew I couldn't interview for that position. I just knew it. I just knew it. And so I sent the email to the chair of the English department, and I told her, and also the faculty committee, and said I'm not going to be able to interview for the position, and I'm not going to, and I do not wish to schedule or reschedule for the interview. And so she was shocked, of course, and I was shocked. I was turning down something. And so what I realized is that I need to heal. I have not healed. I have not gone through the process of healing, at least from 2006, because that was the time of my correction. But I did not continue, or I did not necessarily initiate the process of healing since 1998. So all that time I've been going and going and going and going and uh, having good productive parts of my life and then some unproductive parts of my life, and it caught up with me. I'm at my brick wall. I'm at my fork in the road. I'm at my cul-de-sac. It's time to heal. So sometimes you may have to give that position away, let it go, even though it could affect you financially. You may have to let it go, because if you don't, you're going to find yourself collapsing somewhere. You're going to collapse, and it's like wearing a bunch of bags. It's like taking on too many responsibilities and not really assessing. Another way that you want to think about, in terms of be sure that you have the capacity to solve the problem, is the recent situation with the Harvard president, Dr. Claudine Gay, and then the other presidents of other colleges that were accused of agreeing with genocide, and so they had to go before the House, and they had had the university lawyers right behind them, and they were asked a lot of questions from the Congress people or the Senate people, wherever they went up against, right? And so they couldn't answer those questions. Here it is. They are presidents of colleges. They have doctorate degrees. They should reflect experts in their field, but they couldn't answer a simple question about genocide. And that's not to attack them. That's just to call attention to the fact that whatever problem you are taking on as a responsibility and being accountable for, you need to be sure that you know how to solve that problem. That means that you have to understand what the problem is. It's not all the people who are attacking you, it's all the people who are being attacked on your campus. And then what is your policy? This is not always a free speech issue. This is a particular issue where people are being attacked on the campus. So how do you solve the problem? If you're going to take on the leadership role, whether it's a faculty member, whether it's a committee chair, whether it's the chair of an English department, whether it's a business responsibility, Harvard president, MIT, it doesn't matter. Whatever the leadership role, whatever the responsibility that you want to take on, be sure that you have the capacity to solve the problem. Because sometimes you can have the knowledge, you can have the experience, you can have the expertise, but you don't necessarily have the mental capacity right now. You don't necessarily have the physical capacity. You don't necessarily have the financial capacity to make that type of decision, to implement any types of decisions. You may not have the spiritual capacity. Some things may be, um, divinely ordered and designed for you, but it could still be way before your time. There's a scripture in the Bible that reads that the steps of a good man are ordered of the Lord, and God delights in every step. So that means there's an ordering to your steps. Just because you have the zeal, and just because you have the knowledge, and just because you have the expertise, doesn't mean that you are in order. You just happen to have the expertise, you have the knowledge, right? But there may be the fact that you couldn't answer questions, or the fact that you couldn't carry out the role, or the fact that you decided to commit fraud in the role. You have a lot of people now who are in major leadership types of positions who are going down for fraud. Okay, somewhere in your journey, uh, you committed fraud, but you weren't caught and you never addressed it. Because now you get into a public facing role where there's a lot of um, political political backlash to your decision making, and now you are thrust forward to the spotlight where you now have to answer questions and you don't know how to answer those questions. But in the time where you were by yourself and no one knew your name, and you can make decisions that were sound type decisions, that was the time to address any areas of deficiency or degeneracy or lack of understanding. That was the time to do it. You don't wait till you get the job. You don't wait till you get the role. You don't wait till you get the position that's paying you a lot of money. You don't wait till you get the fame. You don't wait till you get all these people loving you to now begin addressing issues. If you have a financial mismanagement issue before you win the lottery, you're going to have a financial mismanagement issue when you win the lottery. If you don't know how to work your money and save your money and create financial stability where no one knows your name and no one knows how much money you make, once you win the lottery or get a lot of money, you're all of your issues and everything that you have suppressed and never addressed is just going to come to the surface. But now you got tons of people with their hands out and in your ear and calling you and suing you and all different types of things, but you didn't when you didn't have any of that, and it was just by yourself, you didn't take the time to address or create a financial system as a as just an individual. And so once you get the money, once you get the fame, once you get the power, you find yourself spending money. You find yourself not making the best financial decisions. And within a year, and sometimes we'll say 1 to 5 years, but usually it's within 1 to 3 years, you have lost all that money. There was this case about what is a lottery winner who won $450 million, and he decided to leave his wife and go with his mistress. And within a very short time, and I'm not talking about 5 years, I mean literally within a very short time, he lost all 450 million. That money just burned in his pocket. For one, he was out of order because he left his wife. Here it is. She put up with him all those years. She took care of him, helped him, or whatever. And then when he wins money, he decides to leave her and go with the mistress. The mistress took all the money. So now he doesn't have that money anymore. He's much older, and he doesn't have anybody to take care of him because he's also sicker, of course. And so here it is. He could have built and sustained a relationship with his wife, but he likely used her as a come up, meaning that she probably took care of the majority of the bills. And then when he made it, so to speak, he decided to leave her. I don't need her anymore. I'm going to get me a better person. Okay. Well, had he addressed that kind of attitude much earlier before he won money, it is likely that he would have stayed with his wife. No guarantee, but if you address this idea that I think I can get better, okay, and you decide not to marry that person, and then you just go get better, then you sort of address that issue. But you don't stay in the marriage and have that type of attitude and not address it. Because as soon as it looks like you're going to win and it's a false win, you're going to now use that attitude as a basis for any decision you're going to make to leave, to exit. But if you have the attitude you think you are superior to your wife or to your husband, why do you think you are superior to that person? After all, you married them. Why would you marry someone you believe is beneath you, who is inferior to you? If you believe you are superior, then why don't you marry another person you perceive as superior? It doesn't make any sense. It makes sense to the person who may be a narcissist, who may be an emotional abuser. They need somebody to abuse. They need somebody below them so they can feel higher up than that person. But again, the logic is off to me. Why would you engage and live life with a person you feel is beneath you? It doesn't make sense to me. It may make sense to other people. And so, if you begin to address your superiority complex, and some people just don't have that ability to reflect on who they are as an individual. However, but if you did, if you began to address that, and then you look at the person that you are with, and you say this person is inferior to me, or this person is superior to me, what am I going to do about this? Am I going to marry this person, or am I not going to marry this person? As actually, I can just wait for the person I really want to be with. That's the problem that I have with some men, that they'll go on ahead and marry the person that they don't really want to be with. Use that person as a come up because the person has a job and resources, and then once they come up in life, they drop that come up woman and they go marry some woman who did nothing for them, who would leave them in a heartbeat if they got sick. And so, when you're thinking about the capacity to solve the problem, I also want you to think, just because you have money in the bank does not mean that that money is available for someone else. You can have $50,000 in the bank. And just because a family member comes to you with a need doesn't mean you necessarily have the money to give to that person. Because remember, you are an adult and your mortgage is $3,000 or $4,500 or something like that, or your rent is 20,000 or I mean a 20 $2,000 or more. Okay, your job, there's no guarantee for jobs anymore, but you still have a job and a job pays well, right? Okay, that $50,000 is taking care, is really a cushion for if something happens with the job, if something happens with the house. What if you had a fire? What if you had a flood? Okay, that's going to take money to pay for way before the insurance kicks in. So we have to, just because we have something, and does not necessarily mean that what we have is for somebody else. So that means you may not have the capacity to solve the problem, even if you have a lot of money in the bank, right? Because that's your money and you have a right to your money. And the person that who needs your help is always a person who doesn't want to maintain their money. So all you're doing is pouring into, if you give that person money, you're pouring into a well that refuses to accept instruction. That person refuses to receive instruction about how to do better with their finances. They're always jumping from place to place. They jump from relationship to relationship. They know it's time to stop being in a relationship and take some time away from it, but they continue to get into relationships. Okay, and the more you keep talking to them, the more they keep ignoring them. So then you don't have the capacity to solve the problem. They don't want the problem solved. Just because you mentally and reasonably and logically know that it's time for that person to sit down and not be involved in a relationship does not mean that they believe the exact same thing. So you telling them something about what they need to do and how to assess and resolve their issues is not going to be helpful because they don't care. A lot of times these people are in a state of rebellion. They know to do right, but they refuse to do right. They know to do right, but they don't care. So when they are in that type of understanding, that type of life setback, they are in rebellion. There's nothing you can do. They're going to have to go through the hard road of that rebellion and the consequences that are connected to it, and they're going to have to fail. And you're going to have to let them fall. And that's just it. And so you don't have the capacity to raise them up. You don't have the capacity to solve their rebellion problem. They have to go through God. They have to repent to the Lord. uh, Even if they don't believe in God, somewhere their rebellion is going to take them through consequences where they're going to fail and fall. And you're going to have to let them. You don't have the capacity to raise them back up. All you're going to do is the more you continue to engage in trying to help them, it's going to bring you down. And and it's little by little. It never happens just right off the bat. It's little by little. It's little compromises along the way. It's little ignoring your thoughts and feelings and attitudes and belief systems, right? As you revealing too much and them taking advantage. And it's just little decisions along the way that lead you down a path where you have leveraged your house. Here it is. They've gone to jail, and you paid the bond money, right? And they need to show up for court, and they decide to not show up for court. So now they're going to take your house. You keep giving them money, and you don't have enough money. Here it is. You lost your job, and so you don't have enough money to pay for your mortgage or your apartment. So you're going to be evicted. um, um, their violent behavior is not affecting you. The drive-by is not coming through your house. All the bullets are coming through your house. So it's you start in one decision to try to save them, but they have decided to remain in rebellion, and all it's going to do is continue to take you down the wrong path. That's a different path. God already ordered your path, but you're trying to jump off the ordered path, the narrow path, until onto a disordered path, the broad path. And all it is that you're going to have hurts and pains. You may have mental issues later, right? um, you're definitely going to have financial issues. You're going to have issues with your soul because you're compromising your soul. Your soul is your mind, your will, and emotions. And so it could take years to recover. But if you assess who you are now as an individual and what you can and cannot do, what your capacity is, you define it, not that other person defines it, but you define it, especially when you're in a peace situation. See, we ignore this because we're in peace. It's only in chaos and trouble um, and disruption that we begin to scramble. We procrastinated all that process that we should have been doing in terms of learning. And then when we are in a chaotic, toxic, or disruptive type situation, now we're trying to find answers when answers were really there in peace. And then when you are by yourself and you are with your mind and you don't entertain a lot of distractions, you can hear your mind going through the process of people you have dealt with in your past and what you did in those situations, and how you need to now make a decision. I cannot engage in that kind of decision making again. When I got out of the relationship with a narcissist, he kept going back and forth with his ex, and I realized that I lost brain energy, literally brain energy in dealing with him. I was so close to having a mental break. I could feel it. And then I said, my life cannot take many more hits. I remember it just as clear as day. That was in 2016. And I maintained that resolve right today, that my life cannot take many more hits. I know that if I engage in another situation that is very hindering and disruptive and toxic and sinful and chaotic, I could lose my mind. I could literally lose my mind. I would have to check myself into a mental health facility, or I could end up going to jail because I'm dealing with a person who is who who likes that type of activity, or I could just have a heart attack altogether. And in any of those dynamics, those categories, those situations, recovery would take years, and there's no guarantee. If I'm in a situation with a person who is violent, I could lose my life. Okay, there's no recovery after death. If I'm in a heart attack situation, and that means I'm losing my job because I'm now bedridden. Okay, the recovery time is there's no guarantee, right? If I'm in a mental health facility, okay, when am I go? There's no guarantee that I'm going to get up off that floor. Some situations, some life situations can affect you so bad that you collapse on the floor, and there's no guarantee when you're going to get up from off that floor. And all the work that you have put into helping you and trying to build a business or trying to get an education or whatever, all that work is now put back on hold. So that's what I want you to think about when you're thinking about your capacity. Just because you have time, just because you have finances, doesn't mean that you're supposed to be the does not mean that you're supposed to be the person to solve their problem. Just because you are by yourself does not mean that you don't need to address your issues. You're just by yourself. That's it. You're just in celibate mode, or you are just in a mode where you don't want to date. You just want to be single right now. No kids, just peace. Okay, actually, that's the time to address. It's not that you get out of that season in your life and get into a relationship and begin addressing issues. What sense does that make? No, you begin addressing issues when you don't have people in your life, when you don't have a lot of trouble in your life, when you don't have any distractions or destructive types of behaviors or anything like that, where you're not compromising, because you need to see and reflect on these ideas that I compromised myself back in 1990, or I compromised myself back in 2005, or I compromised myself here. I gave too much. I covered too many people. That's how I ended up homeless. I did not save enough money. I always needed to ask money. Whatever the issues are, the things that you oftentimes call attention to other people, it are usually the things that are really wrong with you. It's called projecting. So when you find yourself calling attention to somebody else's issues and problems, it's usually that you are the one who has that actual issue and problem. You are now attracting who you are. And so then you got to stand in front of that mirror and look at your capacity and make sure that you do have the capacity, which includes time and right season to solve that problem. If you do not have the courage to say, I can't do it right now, I need to go through this healing process before I make a decision to go forward with that particular opportunity. Because just because it's an opportunity does not mean that it's an opportunity for you to do it right now. I am life tired. I am burned out over some decisions I have made in my life from way back at 20 years old that have now caught up with me. I'm life tired. So now I'm in my healing season that I should have taken back in 1998. And and a lot of the trouble, uh, um, consistent and repeating trouble, began in 2006 when I lost when I had to go through correction. I was homeless between '08 and 2013, going back and forth with shelters, family, just a lot of different types of issues that I was having. And I should not have gotten into a relationship with someone in 2013. That lasted 2 years and 8 months. It was toxic. It was damaging. It was so psychologically damaging. I It was so psychologically damaging while I was working, having to deal with that, and I had to make a crossroad decision in 2016 regarding that situation. So then I had to go through a process of between 2016 and really up to now, because it is now where I say I actually need to heal. So this is Overcoming Life Tired Setback. Be sure that you have the capacity to solve the problem. Just because it's an opportunity does not necessarily mean that it's time for you to solve it. But when you know for certain that you have the capacity mentally, psychologically, spiritually, financially to solve the problem, you will know it then. If this is the time for you to heal, heal. If this is a time for you to rest, rest. Don't get to a place in your life where someone has to take you out on a stretcher, and whatever that means. Okay? So, overcoming life's tired setback, be sure that you have the capacity to solve the problem. Uh, Please subscribe to the channel, hit hit the notification bell. Also, visit reginawhyfavorites.com for tips and resources. Thank you very much for listening.